disappointed in every one of you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
I'm disappointed in every one of you. Disappointed in every one of you.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it no more.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
Let me tell you why.
It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
We just killed a fucking man.
What are you going to do about it?
You're happy because you got nothing. You don't got a thing. You're happy because you got nothing. Lobito! Got nothing.
I want to get out. I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need
BDA boxing.
Welcome everybody to another BD Boxing Podcast, broadcasting to you live from the True North. This is your good friend Mr. BDA, and I sure am glad that everybody could be on board for this one, fellas. In this episode, we got a fantastic one for you, as we've got a lot to cover. There's been a lot of things compounding since we've last been on the air, so we're going to get to all of that. We're also going to be opening up the phone lines in about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on what happens here, so that you guys can call in and give us your thoughts on everything boxing. Before we do that, fellas, let's get the business out of the way. You know the drill. If you want to donate a couple of shekels our way, you're certainly welcome to do so with the Super Chat feature. Although it's always better if you join the membership program. That way you get more bang for your buck. But the most important thing is that you continue to like, subscribe, you spread that BDA gospel, all right, fellas? You spread it nice and wide. Now, don't forget you can also join our Discord for as low as $2 per month, I believe. So if enough people pitch in, you're really going to be supporting us. And we are going to be able to deliver these fan-made independent documentaries that we are churning out. We're working on Moxie's Most Shocking Moments of All Time, Volume 2. Now, when I say most shocking moments, it also includes some of the more obscure shocking moments. All right, fellas? So keep that in mind. And don't forget, we also got BDA Clips up and running. BDA Clips, that's our secondary channel, formerly known as BDA Live. And we just posted a Madrimov film analysis, which is doing quite well, considering that channel has been dormant for a while. I'm going to be dropping part 2 in a couple of days, possibly tomorrow. I also want to put Steph K's analysis of Shakur Stevenson in there. And Aldo sent me a couple of clips of Devin Haney's tactics, his little tricks that he comes up with in the ring. So I got to do a video on that as well. So guys, make sure to check that one out. Hit the thumbs up button while you're there. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button here as well and subscribe if yet to do so already. Don't forget you can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and Spreaker at your leisure. If you do go to Spotify, make sure to hit that 5-star rating, all right? 5-star. Let's give a shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm talking about JJ. Shout out to JJ. Shout out to Baron Evola, Super Sardonic, LL, El Pachuco, Quentin Lassiter, Unknown, JumpTube in the house. Shout out to JumpTube. Dark Heido, another one of the initiated. Jin Ryu Jr. 33. The aforementioned official scorecard boxing in there. Sefke, Bray, Rafael Garza. Shout out to Rafael, one of the initiated. Shout out to OG Blaze, another one of the initiated. Jacques Cousteau, another one of the anointed ones. Hard Recoil, Alex Dahl. Geo Coaching for Jesus. Frankie Sands, another one of the initiated. The Quags, another one of the initiated. Some Rando, another initiated. All right, we got a lot of people. You know, I don't think it's good though. It's when you're supposed to have some sort of a secret society, it's supposed to be secret. You're not supposed to have this many people in it. But hey, The more the merrier is what I say. So shout out to you guys. And like I said, don't forget to hit the like, thumbs up, subscribe if you yet to do so already. All right. So we got a lot to talk about here. Let me just invite a couple of people. Start turning on the stove. Because you cannot cook with cold grease. You got to turn the stove on. Come on. I forgot to turn on the Discord, by the way. That's why we've got this going on. Waiting a little bit here. Listen, we got a lot going on, man. We got the Saturday's fights where we failed to cover because we haven't gone on the air since Saturday. And then on top of that, this Saturday, we've got a lot of fights coming up. And what I mean by a lot of fights is we got two major fights. We got Nakatani in the main event on ESPN, and in the undercard, we got Kenshiro Teraji taking on Jonathan La Bomba Gonzalez. That is for the Ring Magazine Junior Flyweight title. Or no, what do they call it? Not Junior Flyweight. Yeah, Junior Flyweight. Yeah, 108 pounds. And there's a lot on the line because of that, because it's the number one guy. Obviously, Teraji is the Ring Magazine champion against the next best contender in La Bomba. This is a fight that should have taken place a long time ago, a while back. For various reasons, it did not occur. But here we are now. And that's what's occurring here. What else? Yeah, let me just invite a couple of people over here. Like I said, start making something happen. And there's a lot of boxing drama too. Shakur Stevenson still in the meltdown mode ever since his subpar performance. And by the way, when I say subpar performance, I mean in terms of action. I've been on the record saying that the guy did at least he did what he said he was going to do, which is going to try to stop Hartunian. So the problem wasn't necessarily that he didn't try. The problem was that he can't. And I think people need to separate those two things. Otherwise, we get into a whole different world here of confusion. Hold on a second. I'm just trying to invite a couple of people over here. How come King Bucho? What's his fucking name in here? Give me 2 seconds here, fellas. It's just Bucho, apparently. So that's what we've got here going on. Got a lot of stuff going on, the drama. Then Terence Crawford had to chime in. Shakur Stevenson also threatened to beat up and assault a journalist in Steve Kim. So we're going to talk about that as well. But let's start off with a little bit of boxing. A little bit of boxing. We got Jaron Ennis stopping David Avanesian. I don't know how you pronounce his name, by the way. Should have learned that by now. But be that as it may, he ended up stopping him in about the 6th round, I believe. And you know, Jaron Ennis, sometimes I have to question what people mean by overhyped. Because anybody can overhype a boxer. I'll give you an example. Some fans, maybe 5 fans, if you will, can overhype a guy. So when that guy loses, can we really say exposed because 5 people overhyped him? You know, I don't think so. What you have to look for is really the amount of people and from which demographic they come from. And that's how you really start gauging whether this person was overhyped or not. So what we got with Jaron Ennis right now, we've got a lot of fans overhyping him. We have certain insiders, such as boxing coaches, overhyping him. And we have the mainstream media, the boxing establishment, overhyping him as well. Ring Magazine just did an article a couple of weeks ago, I believe, predicting who's going to be pound for pound 10 years from now or 5 years henceforth. And I believe they picked Jaron Boots Ennis as being the next pound-for-pound king. If that's not overhyping a guy, then I don't know what is. So this fight against Avanesian, which was supposed to be against Cody Crowley, it was supposed to really show us what's up here. And what's up with Jaron Ennis is very relaxed in there. He's strong, very big for a welterweight. And he's got the enviable mix of speed and power, which is something that you can't buy, really. Yeah, you know, that's a natural talent right there. And of course, you can build upon it, you can add to it, but you have to work hard to maintain it. But it's something that you're born with. And so Jaron Ennis has all of that. Also, unlike Shakur Stevenson, he can actually try to go for that stoppage and get it. That's the thing, though. Sometimes, look, some things aren't meant to be in this world. You can try to be as entertaining as you want. You can try to be as the little Mike Tyson. But if you don't have the physical capabilities to do it, it's just not going to happen. And that's something that Shakur Stevenson found out 2 weeks ago. Jaron Ennis is not in that same problem. Certainly not. He has the power, he has the speed to take your lights out, turn your lights out. And so that's what he ended up doing to Avenesian this past Saturday. And, I can appreciate a guy who goes in there to get the job done, who says he's going to do it. I don't even think he said he was going to stop Avenesian. I actually didn't pay too much attention to the build-up to this fight, but I don't know if Jaron Ennis really is the type of guy like Shakur Stevenson or Devin Haney's father who like to talk a big game and then underperform, underdeliver. Devin Haney's father said they were going to kill Ryan Garcia, and the only guy that came close to being dead, to being killed, was Devin Haney. I mean, the guy made number 2 in his pants during the fight. I mean, come on. The guy was scared poopless, if you know what I mean. Shakur Stevenson likes to talk a big game. He told Edwin de Los Santos he was going to beat him up. Of course, the only people he beat up was us by beating us to sleep with his desultory performance. So you can see that Jaron Ennis, as far as I know, I don't think I've ever heard him talk too much. I don't think he's got a big mouth, and yet he's the guy that's scoring the stoppages. So that's something you'd like to see right there. Also, the interesting thing was that Philly really seemed to turn out for Jaron Ennis. I don't know if those tickets were comped. I don't know if the crowd was papered. But for a long time, Philadelphia, which used to be a fight town, became a wasteland for boxing. I mean, they had a guy in Stephen Fulton, great fighter, could fight inside, outside, undefeated, wanted to fight the best, hence why he went to fight Inoue in Japan. And yet he himself admitted, Philly ain't turning out for me. Now things seem to have turned around a little bit. But, one of the factors might be that, contrary to Stephen Fulton, Jaron Ennis is not a small guy. Yeah, people tend, you know that this is the case, guys. I'm not telling you anything new here. Guys in the lower weight tend to be ignored. All right, so that may be one thing. Also, Stephen Fulton, for as good as he is, one thing he isn't is a power puncher. Whereas, like I said, Jaron Ennis is. So you take all those things together, that might be one of the reasons why he was able to garner more attention than Stephen Fulton. But still, you got to credit one person here, if indeed there is something or somebody to credit, and that is Eddie Hearn. Because for years, Jaron Ennis was aligned with the PBC organization. And what were they doing with him? They were putting him in the ring once every 2 years, putting him in undercards, keeping him under the rug, not hyping him up, really focusing more on Tank Davis than anybody, or Errol Spence than anybody else. Meanwhile, they had this guy in there that, they could make something happen with him. As soon as Eddie Hearn gets his hands around Jaron Ennis, what happens? You start seeing more hype. You see a big turnout for him in Philadelphia. I mean, that is how you promote fights. That is the difference between an organization that has a guy on top of the organization that doesn't like boxing, appears to hate boxing, that the way it's been going on for the last 9-10 years. And that's the difference between that organization and an organization that's been in the business for a while now, that understands boxing, appears to understand the market and how to promote and hype up fights. Can't stress that enough. And so that's what Eddie Hearn's managed to do with Jaron Ennis. So hopefully things go well in this venture. Again, they were supposed to have Cody Crowley in there. Guys, I don't know how well or how much better Crowley could have done as opposed to Avenesian, because although Crowley appears to be stronger than Avenesian, he's also a bit slower and lacks a little bit of the craft that Avenesian brings. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Avenesian was attempting to do a lot of good things in there. He was shifting, he was feinting, he was, whenever he got Jaron Ennis on the inside, he was throwing nice, short, compact shots, also stabbing shots. Those are like, when you're throwing rights and lefts from the mid-range, but you're doing it sort of like in a stabbing motion. Like when you work the bag, a lot of people don't work the bag that way in the gym. They like to work it all the way out because the punches sound better in a way. I mean, at least that's my experience. Every time I see people working the bag, they do 6-7 rounds, and, they look good, and you're thinking, well, okay, you're working at the same range all the time. How about you work at mid-range and up close? And then you see they don't know how to do that. So Avenesian is a consummate pro. He knew how to fight outside and inside. And he was getting some shots in against Jaron Ennis. Now, I know what some people are going to say already, because that's one of the criticisms that I did have of Jaron Ennis. He was getting hit with some shots, and you could tell that they were the type of shots that he didn't see coming, because it's one thing to get hit with a shot and then you keep coming. It's another one when you get hit with a shot and immediately you see the guy get on the defensive or, like sort of dip down reflexively. or by reflex automatically. That's a shot that usually indicates, okay, this guy wasn't expecting to be hit with that blow. And you saw Jaron Ennis hit with a bunch of those this past Saturday. So, because I know people are going to say, yeah, but BDA, if Jaron Ennis is an aggressive fighter, of course he's going to get hit. And I agree, but he wasn't getting hit going forward. He was getting hit while he was resting on the ropes looking for the counterpunch opportunity, which ended up coming. But he was getting hits with some head-snapping shots. And, I mean, again, I praised him for his physical gifts, but it's precisely because of those physical gifts that perhaps he's been overlooking, or maybe he hasn't really overlooked them. It's just he can't perform these things in the ring. And he keeps his hands down, he relies on upper body movement, he relies on his reflexes to get him out of the way. And sometimes that's not always going to work. I mean, that can work with some of the guys he's been fighting lately. But you saw him now stepping up there against Venetian, wasn't exactly working out. And this is a guy that's been stunned twice in his career. He was stunned by a Dominican fighter early on, forget the guy's name, and Lipinets stunned him with an overhand right in their fight. He recuperated quickly and was able to take it back to the smaller Lipinets, but you see there are deficiencies there. Now, some people are going to say, yeah, but BDA, how come he never got caught or never got hurt against Roman Villa? Well, the good question and good point. Roman Villa is heavier-handed than Venetian. However, he is not as good or as adroit as setting up those shots. And it's the shot that you don't see coming that hurts you. So, in a way, Roman Villa, yeah, he's stronger and hits harder, but it's the punches that you can see coming. And so, Jaron Ennis had an easier time rolling and getting away from those shots than he's done against guys who know how to set up those shots properly. I mean, let's remember, guys, Roman Villa beat Rashidi Ellis, but he barely did it. I mean, I'd have to rewatch the fight. I was surprised that he got the decision when that fight went down. Because, yeah, he did drop Ellis, how many times? Was it once or twice late in the fight? But before that, he was just flailing at the wind. So how good really a win was that from Ennis over Villa? I guess we're going to find out, though. That's the great thing, because for a long time now, it was very frustrating asking these questions of Boots Ennis and not knowing whether they were even going to be asked ever, because he was, being mismanaged over there on the PBC side. Now, though, we know we're going to get those answers to those questions. And my thing is, I think he should move up to 154 already, because there's not much going on at 147. You've got Mario Barrios, who is very, very, very fragile for a welterweight. I mean, if he has no other options, Ennis, okay, then fight Barrios. It's not a bad fight, but it's not at the top of my list. Stanionis, that would have been a good fight 2 years ago. Stanionis been out. He was out for 2 years before he finally got a comeback fight a couple of weeks ago. And he looked rusty in that one. Rustier than that fucking rusty nail. And on top of that, he's still with the PBC. I think he re-signed a contract with the PBC. And as somebody very well pointed out, somebody expertly pointed out on Discord, they said, well, you think the PBC is going to give Jaron Ennis a chance to fight one of their guys after he just left them? I don't know. I don't see it happening. I guess so. Again, who's left at 147? Cody Crowley? I mean, really, are these fights that get you excited for Jaron Ennis? Meanwhile, take a gander at what's going on north of the border at 154. Hoo-wee. All of a sudden, 154 is the division, is the red-hot division. It is what welterweight was 4 years ago. You got Virgil Ortiz, you got Bachinio, whatever his name is, that Ukrainian guy that just beat up Mendoza. You've got Tim Tszyu still in the mix. Maybe one of the Charlos. I don't know if he's ever going to fight again. You got Fundora. Maybe Errol Spence. You got Terence Crawford. You got Madrimov. I mean, come on, fellas. Come on now. You have to admit, that is one of the hottest divisions in boxing right now. It's interesting how things can shift and change within a couple of months. A couple of years, maybe a year ago, 154 was considered, well, what is it, a wasteland, right? It's nothing. Who cares about 154? It was like the cruiserweight division. Now, all of a sudden, we got something going now, huh? Like I like to say, we're cooking with the stove on. And so, my question is, why shouldn't Ennis move up to 154? I suppose maybe one of the fights that could be there for him would be a Conor Benn fight. And seeing as how hittable Ennis was against Venetian, I think Conor Benn has a good shot of making something happen. Now, would I pick Conor Benn to beat Jaron Ennis? No, I think Jaron Ennis is way too big. But you never know. Could be fun for as long as it goes. And speaking of Conor Benn, what's up with him? When's he going to fight again? Because it appears as if ever since he got in trouble there with the BBOC because of the contaminated eggs, or I don't know what his excuse was, we haven't really heard much from him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Fellas, don't forget to hit the like, the like really helps us out. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. I got to... Sorry about that. I had to adjust the air conditioning. It was getting a little bit hot in here. Just like 154, huh? Getting red hot. And what else was I going to say? So that's the thing there with Jaron Ennis. I mean, I don't know what's up with him, man. I don't know if he's going to stay at 147, 154. But again, I am much more confident now and less pessimistic about his future than I was a year ago. Because now at least he's with Matchroom, and you know they're going to get him some fights. Now, the other fight that took place this Saturday was... We were supposed to get Janibek fighting. And a lot like a certain American politician, we dodged a bullet when that fight fell through. Because Janibek against some unknown, that was going to be a waste of time. And knowing me, a boxing crackhead, I was going to stay up late to watch that fight. And thankfully it didn't happen. And so they moved Raymond Muratalla against Tevin Farmer up as the main event. But again, that was a little bit of an underwhelming performance from Muratalla. I've been high on Muratalla ever since I saw him fight Nakatani, and then when he completely dismantled an undefeated Asabache Martinez. Was that his name? Anyway, his nickname was El Asabache. And Muratalla just dismantled him, showing that there are levels to boxing. Because again, Asabache had never really beaten anybody of note, but at least you saw Muratalla just have an easy time with him. So I thought, okay, Muratalla, man, this guy's good. Now, when they announced the fight against Tevin Farmer, I said, well, okay, Tevin Farmer is 34 years old. He can't really crack. He's a bit of a slapper. And on top of that, he was out for about 4 years. I don't know if you guys knew that. Let's check it out here. I think, indeed, he'd been out for 4 years during ever since the pandemic. He fought in 2020 against Jojo Diaz. That was a month or 2 months before the world went insane and locked everything down. And then he was supposed to fight for about 2 years, I think. He was supposed to fight Mickey Bay, and that fight never happened. Check it out. 2020, January the 30th, he fought Jojo Diaz. He lost his super featherweight title. Then he stayed idle for 3 years, and he came back in 2023. He had a busy, or relatively busy, at least for today's standards, or by today's standards, fought twice that year. Then he fought he fought once this year, and then this past week was his second fight. So at least he was having some activity, but he was against nobodies. It's a lot like Alexander Gvozdyk coming back, taking 2 complete tune-ups after years out of the ring, and then stepping in there against an alleged killer in David Benavides. This time it was a little bit the similar thing with Tevin Farmer, the aging star, out the ring for a couple of years, only had a couple of tune-ups against virtual unknowns, taking on a guy who can crack. And what happened? Well, Muratalla ended up winning by unanimous decision, but it was an underwhelming performance. Muratalla looking for the perfect shot, seemingly hypnotized by Tevin Farmer. You know what I hate about these guys? And you can tell who's a pressure fighter and who's not. The guy who puts his hands up, moves his head a little bit as he's coming in, deflecting shots with the guard, firing throwaway shots, backing a guy into the ropes and then keeping him on the ropes. On paper, that's a pressure fighter. What Muratalla was doing was same mistake Teofimo Lopez makes. He's pressuring with his hands down, so already you know he's going to get hit. So then as soon as he gets hit, he reacts like a scaredy cat and goes into full defensive mode, backs up, and lets the pure boxer get out of the way, reset. Now you got to start all over again. That's what Muratalla was doing. It wasn't until the later rounds when Tevin Farmer, the older inactive fighter, finally started tiring, that Muratalla, thanks to Robert Garcia, his trainer's urging, decided to open up the gauntlet, open up the machine, and let him have it. And that late rally appeared to have not sealed him the win. But it was a very uneventful performance from Muratalla. Clearly now, a guy who has got some movement and who can just tag him a little bit, is going to make Muratalla second guess himself. Because again, he was reacting to Tevin Farmer's shots as if they were bombs. And you look at the way Jojo Diaz fought Farmer compared to Muratalla, it's night and day. One guy knows how to put his hands up, pressure a guy, get him on the inside. The other guy is just relying on one shot. Muratalla was relying on the perfect shot. And I don't know what was up with that. I really don't. It's I don't know. Some people were saying, because again, what makes this worse was this was the second underwhelming performance from Muratalla. And the last time he had that underwhelming performance, they said, I think it was Tim Bradley who touched on the fact that, well, maybe it's because he's having trouble making weight. If that's the case, move on to 140 already, man. Because this type of performances ain't doing you any good. And again, you know, you got to give it up to Robert Garcia, though. He's a guy that knows how to tweak his fighters' deficiencies. And you hope that he's going to tweak Muratalla's deficiencies because, again, 2 bad fights in a row, all of a sudden he's losing his luster. He's losing it quick, let me tell you. Losing it quick. What are people in the chat saying? Sober says, I don't like how Muratalla holds his hands and palms out. This is in Kung Fu, motherfucker. Yeah, this is, I mean, if you're going to pressure a guy, you can do that. Like Golovkin didn't always have a tight guard. He would have that European stance more or less, but he knew how to tuck his chin in at least. That was it seemed like that was his first line of defense. Actually, his first line of defense were his feet. He would pressure and then take a little step back and then make you miss and then reapply pressure. Also, he had a ramrod jab that he used to constantly back his opponents up. But Muratalla, that's a problem, man. He doesn't fire a jab. He doesn't have a guard. Doesn't really move his head all that much. He's looking to counter with one shot. So he's pressuring you. He's looking for you to punch so he can counter with a shot. And okay, that you can do that in the middle of the ring, but I mean, at some point, you can't really do that all the time when you got a guy on the ropes. When you got a guy on the ropes and you're a power puncher, you do the Rocky Marciano. You hit whatever you can. And for some reason, he wasn't doing that. So could have been just a styles make fights type of thing. I don't know. But again, like I said, this is the second fight in which he's looked underwhelming. So which one is it, fellas? I guess we're going to have to find out in his next couple of fights. You know, Steve Kim said something interesting. He said, why not just match him with Keyshawn Davis already? Sink or swim. Throw those guys in there. That's what they do in England, by the way. In England, they're not afraid to match prospect against prospect. For some reason here in the United States, ooh, you know, I don't want to lose my O. I don't want my fighter to lose that O. I mean, I yearn for the old days, man, when guys could fight 6 times a year, have a non-title fight loss, and it didn't matter. When they would get the rematch for when it counted for a title with the title on the line, that's when they would beat the guy up. Nobody really cared too much about a loss. But nowadays, with guys fighting twice a year, I mean, let's think about it. You fight twice a year. That means in 3 years you get 6 fights if you're lucky. 1 loss. That means in your last 6 fights, you know, you're 5-1. That's how boxing writers qualified. By the way, oh, this guy's he's 3-1 in his last fights, or he's 3-2. Yeah, but what about the context? If you're losing 2 fights against solid opposition and you're losing close fights, is that really a room for criticism? I mean, I don't know. That's all I'm saying. Earl Stevens says he's still good enough to beat up most at 135. Well, we'll see, man. We shall see, because I disliked how he was unable to handle Tevin Farmer. So imagine how he would handle a guy like Baranchik or a guy like Lomachenko. You know, a guy who's been in there with everybody, who still has some physicality with him. So he's gonna have to ramp it up. What's the other thing I wanted to get into here? Shakur Stevenson too. No, hold on, excuse me. Are those the fights that already took place? Yeah, so that's what we had on Saturday. Hey fellas, don't forget to hit the like, by the way. Hit the like. It really helps us out. Really appreciate you guys dropping by. And like I said, we're going to be opening up the phone lines in about 15 to half an hour, depending how everything goes. I don't know, maybe we started the show at a weird time here, but nobody is showing up. Plays a couple of calls here. I guess I'm going solo here today, fellas. It's just you and me. Earl Stevens says hit the dislike. Guys, how do I ban people from the chat again? How do I ban people from the channel? If somebody can let me know, make sure to do that. What else is going to say? Oh, shout out to Thunderdome in the chat. Shout out to Thunderdome. We got the Chitlin Distributor too. He says Crawford is overrated. Protector General says Wilder was always a bum with rotational speed and thus power. Absolutely. That's really, in today's heavyweight division, having speed and power will take you a good long way. And you can see that it did with Deontay Wilder. The other thing I wanted to talk about was this weekend's fights. We have, for a lot of people, Jake Paul. Come on. What are we going to do with that one, right? But could be interesting. You never know. He tends to deliver a show as every time he fights. At least he's knocking people out. Can't really say the same thing about certain lightweights, can you? But when it comes to Jake Paul, I don't know. It's pay-per-view, so who's really going to pay for that? But on ESPN, starting at about 5 in the morning, we've got quite a show coming to us from Japan. We have Junto Nakatani returning. And it's not the best fight in the world, but it could turn out to be a competitive fight as he takes on Vincent Astrolabio. Now, Astrolabio, I don't know why I pronounced it with the Spanish accent, but he's from the Philippines. He's the guy that essentially handed Rigondeaux his last loss. Ended up dropping him in that fight. Strong guy, as most Filipinos tend to be. He ended up losing to one of the Maloney brothers, I forget which one, the 118-pound one. And it was a very close fight. Australia might. And the decision didn't go Astrolabio's way, but he's a strong dude. And he should at least give it 100% against Nakatani, whose last couple of fights have earned him a berth in the top 10 pound-for-pound list. He is that good. He's incredibly tall for his division. He's already a 3-time division champion. For if you're into those type of things, because some people really don't pay too much attention to the titles. Be that as it may, that's what we got with Nakatani. But the real fight, the real treasure, this Saturday morning is going to be Kosei Tanaka taking on Jonathan La Bomba Rodriguez. Now, I completely made a mistake. I thought it was Kenshiro Teraji that was going to be fighting Jonathan Rodriguez. I don't know why I confused those two guys. I think it's because of the haircut. They have similar haircuts. But I was under the impression that it was going to be Kenshiro Teraji that was going to be fighting. I guess that's why I never heard other people talking about this fight. I guess I'm the only one. I was like, how come more people aren't talking about Kenshiro Teraji versus La Bomba Rodriguez, which was a fight that was supposed to take place for a while back. Yeah, I guess that's not happening. Sorry about that, fellas. Fake news from the BDA organization. So when is Teraji ever going to fight? And why did I confuse Teraji with Jonathan Rodriguez? Again, I said it was a haircut, but Jin Ryu says BDA is saying they all look alike. Well, listen, I'm not saying that, but maybe I am saying it. I don't know. Depends on what you people are talking about there. But still, yeah, Kenshiro Teraji is still a heck of a fighter. I don't know, who has he beaten since he lost to Ioka 4 years ago? I don't know. I'm looking for some, clarification here. I'm looking it up as we go on, by the way. But still, it still should be an interesting fight. I mean, if you're into Junto Nakatani, at least, that should be a great performance from it, or at least a display of boxing. Because I'm telling you, this dude might just be the next pound-for-pound guy. Everyone's talking about how he might be Jaron Ennis. We got Nakatani, who is more proven, by the way, than Jaron Ennis, and I believe he's younger too. Let me just double check, because he's 26, yeah, younger by 1 year, and he's already grabbed himself a couple of titles. So, yeah, man, I guess he is more proven than Jaron Ennis, but you don't see too many people talking about him being the next pound-for-pound guy. Could also be a potential opponent for Bam Rodriguez. I mean, I know Bam Rodriguez just recently returned to 115 pounds, super flyweight, but barring anything else, if he beats El Puma, then that might be the only fight left for him, would be to move up to 118 and take on Junto Nakatani. I don't know. What has Kosei Tanaka done since losing to Ioka? So he lost to Ioka on New Year's Eve in 2020, and then he fought Sho Ishida. That name sounds familiar. Who did he pull the upset up against? Anyway, and he's notched a couple of wins, as you can see here, since. and now he's taking on La Bomba Rodriguez. Man, I really thought it was going to be Teraji, man. So Teraji's not... Teraji hasn't done much then, since he fought Canizales, which was a very tough fight. Interesting. All right, now, that's what we've got there for this Saturday's fights. Again, Junto Nakatani, perhaps the best uppercut in boxing. And it's going to be interesting to see if you guys are willing to stay up for that one or wake up early for that one on Saturday. That's what we've got there. The other thing is this. We have a problem right now with fighters being too spoiled. And this is really coming from one demographic, and that is American fighters. You know, Larry Holmes, I keep saying this every episode, 16 years ago, during the Klitschko's reign, one reporter asked Larry Holmes, "Hey, Larry, what's up with the American heavyweight division? How come we don't see any American heavyweight great coming through the grapevine?" Or, excuse me, the grapevine, coming through the pipeline. And Larry Holmes interrupted the guy. He says, because they're spoiled. They are spoiled. They get one win, they get one payday or a couple of paydays, and now they want more and more and more. They get greedy. And we've been saying it ad nauseum on this channel. Shakur Stevenson got his ass licked by the media, by ESPN, by Top Rank, day in and day out, telling him he was the next big star, the anointed one. And he believed it. And once Top Rank started realizing that this guy wasn't bringing in the numbers and wasn't really as good as they tried to advertise him as, all of a sudden, they started treating him accordingly. And you saw Shakur Stevenson losing his mind. Again, because he was pampered. He was spoiled ever since he started. There were, again, people like to say, "Oh, Lomachenko, he was overhyped by ESPN, by Bob Arum, blah blah blah." But I never really heard anybody say the same thing about Shakur Stevenson. And he was overhyped. Believe me. I mean, I'll give you an example. This is after he beat Oscar Valdez, a guy that he was supposed to beat and who'd already looked subpar numerous times before in his career. In fact, he should have lost his last fight against Conceição. That was the fight prior to, the Shakur Stevenson fight. Shakur Stevenson dominates Oscar Valdez to win second title via unanimous decision. Shakur Stevenson jogged around the ring with his hands held high as the seconds ticked away on the biggest night of his career. For 12 rounds, he practically played with Oscar Valdez in what turned out to be another mismatch. First of all, it wasn't another mismatch. He got hit plenty in that fight. So I don't know. And then on top of that, he had to resort to dirty tactics, low blows, in that fight. Of course, ESPN at the time, they were in the peak, they were in the midst of Shakur Mania, so they didn't want to point any of that out. "I'm a superstar in this sport," Shakur Stevenson said. "I want to collect all the belts at 130 and become undisputed." Of course, he never did that because, he missed weight. And I think Tim Bradley said that was a good choice. I believe, I haven't been able to find a quote, but that's what somebody told me, that Tim Bradley qualified missing weight as the correct move. So you can see, that utter mismatch. That's what they call that performance. Also, every time he would fight, they would show his stats about how he's the least hit fighter in boxing, this and that. So they were overhyping him, making videos about him, putting him for a long time. Whenever you would go to the schedule page on ESPN, the boxing schedule page, who would you see on the front center? Shakur Stevenson. He was the anointed one. He was the guy that they planted their flag on and said, this is the guy that's going to carry ESPN Top Rank Boxing across the 21st century. And again, once that stuff didn't pan out, once it started failing, once Shakur Stevenson failed to deliver, they started treating him accordingly. They said, listen, this is what we think you're worth. This is what the market dictates. 5 fights, for each one for $3 million. Good money. Very good money. There's guys out there that get paid $1,000 per fight. Or they leave the ring with $1,000 because let's say their salary is $5,000 for that fight. They gotta pay their trainer, their manager, taxes, blah blah blah. So they're left with $2,000. $2,000 for a fight. This guy was offered $15 million, and he said it wasn't good enough. He said it himself. I'm gonna pull up the quotes because I haven't pulled them up yet. If you look at the earlier shows we've done, the last couple of shows, you'll see that we've pulled up the quotes, and I'm going to find them early if anybody needs their mind refreshed. But he said, I know what I'm worth. I'm above that. So he thinks he's above that. Just like Devin Haney when they started mandating that he fight Sandor Martin, and he said, I'm above those type of fights. I think it's because what's going on is he's having rectum reconstruction surgery. Because, again, it was abnormal that he was pooping his pants in there against Ray Garcia. That is abnormal. So I think that he's getting that medical issue cleared. So he should just say that. But for him to say, oh, I'm above the Sandor Martin fight, who are you above? Your pay-per-view numbers are horrible. You just lost a fight, and it's a miracle that they managed to reverse it. How are you above those type of fights? So that's what we've got with these American fighters. And Shakur Stevenson, again, he was just too pampered by ESPN. And now as soon as things didn't go correct for him, you see his mind breaking. He's calling everybody out. For example, Mark Kriegel. He said, Mark Kriegel asked me mostly negative questions. And on the show, a couple of episodes ago, we revisited that interview. And Mark Kriegel was licking his ass. We couldn't find any difficult questions, any negative questions. So right there, that gives you an insight into Shakur Stevenson's mind. Victim, 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 victim. He's got the victim mentality. He's looking at the world right now through him being the victim and everybody's against him. So how are you supposed to take what he says seriously when it's being painted by victim-colored glasses? He's out of his mind. He's not living in reality. And so anytime that anybody criticizes him, even when it's valid criticism, he's taking it the wrong way and he's going after everybody, which is insane. Really, the guy is on the verge of being utterly insane. And so, again, Timothy Bradley started saying, hey, maybe I think Tank Davis beats him, blah, blah, blah. If Shakur Stevenson doesn't fix these issues, blah, blah, blah. So this dude here, who has an anime avatar, by the way, I'm always dubious of anybody with an anime avatar. So he told Shakur Stevenson, let's be real, if this grown-ass man Shakur Stevenson was white, he would be the hype. He's a legend already. So this dude is calling Shakur Stevenson a legend. They don't want to see this man demolish them Mexican and Caucasian. But his time coming real soon to be at the top where he belongs. So this is another guy that's licking Shakur Stevenson's ass, just like the people at Top Rank and ESPN were doing. So don't be surprised, guy with anime avatar, if Shakur Stevenson turns on you eventually. So again, this guy made it racial. So you would expect Shakur Stevenson to at least go, hey, listen, let's not make it racial, blah, blah, blah. No, sorry, Bob. Shakur Stevenson has finally completed the victim circle. He says, Milk Dud head Tim Bradley would say I'm the greatest boxer he ever seen if I was white. Again, by the way, the grammar that these guys butcher is amazing, really. I'm the greatest boxer he ever seen if I was white. And then he called him a sellout. First of all, he's saying, people would be saying I'm the greatest boxer they've ever seen if I was white. You're not white. You're half Afro-Anglo, half Puerto Rican. And guess what, Shakur Stevenson? They were overhyping you. I just posted an example there. Domination. Easy domination over Oscar Valdez, even though he got hit plenty in that fight. Every time Shakur Stevenson would fight, they would talk about him as the anointed one, the next great thing. They would compare him to Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward, Sugar Ray Leonard. They were always doing these puff pieces on him before the fights. They overlooked the fact that he assaulted a woman. Him and a bunch of his friends, a pack of his friends, ended up catcalling a bunch of women. And then when the women refused their advances, they decided to assault them. That's what Shakur Stevenson does outside the ring. Of course, ESPN, let's not focus too much on that. They always talked about how he's the greatest defensive fighter today, or one of the greatest defensive. They couldn't stop putting that up. But then you saw the hype dying down little by little. Every time he would go in there and deliver underwhelming performances, they still tried, but it wasn't to Shakur Stevenson's liking. He wanted everybody to call him the greatest fighter right now. So when you have people like this on Twitter egging him on, calling him a legend already, and Shakur Stevenson making it racial, again, people are going to say, yeah, look at how they did it with Lomachenko. They overhyped him. Again, are you telling me they didn't overhype Shakur Stevenson? Because Lomachenko, the one thing you could say about Lomachenko is, yeah, they overhyped him, but at least he was stopping people. He was delivering scintillating performances. Just look at the way he ended Rocky Martinez. Nobody had done, Mikey Garcia did it to Martinez, but he got hurt in that fight. Lomachenko completely had his way with Martinez. And look at how he laid him out in that fight. It was superb. And then he went on that string of wins where he started making people quit. That's what got people interested. When has Shakur Stevenson, who received, in my eyes, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, he received as much, if not more praise than Lomachenko for doing less, not stopping really anybody, not making anybody quit. I mean, look at his fights against Pitufo Diaz and Joed Gonzalez. He didn't beat those guys up. He outboxed them. There's plenty of guys out there that can outbox Pitufo Diaz and Joed Gonzalez. But can you beat them up? Can you make them quit? Can you stop them inside of 5 rounds? Just completely dominate them. That's what gets people going. Shakur Stevenson was overhyped when he couldn't even do any of that. But when Lomachenko goes in there and delivers better performances, he was being overhyped. He was only overhyped because he was white. Shakur Stevenson, again, he's not white. He received plenty of hype, believe me. The problem wasn't Top Rank. The problem wasn't ESPN. The problem was Shakur Stevenson. He couldn't deliver the performances that he himself said he was going to deliver. He talked a big game. He said he was going to hurt De Los Santos. He said he was going to hurt Artunian. And he couldn't stop him. Now, I give him credit for trying. Again, I give him credit for trying as Artunian. That's a different argument, a different issue. The issue here is that he's in Winky Wright's shoes. Winky Wright was a guy who used to move around the ring a lot and then decided, you know what, I'm going to put the earmuffs up and I'm going to walk guys down. And he did it. But he couldn't knock anybody out. So round after round, it was the same performance. It was uneventful. And it didn't really garner the interest of people. It didn't garner people's interest. And that's the same thing with Shakur Stevenson. He can try to knock people out, but he just doesn't have it. For a lot of reasons. We touched on that last episode, or before last episode, about his technical deficiencies, why he fails to generate power. It is what it is. And so now he's got a choice to make. Either he goes the Winky Wright route and just continues winning, and eventually a big fight will come, or he can just keep complaining, playing the race card, going after everybody, and acting like a petulant child, as Steve Kim called him, and just generally garnering bad press and bad faith or bad energy from people. Because here's the reality of the internet. If people troll you and you react the way they want you to, like cursing them out and threatening to beat them up, you know what these people think? I got him. Let me start piling on more. And guess what Shakur Stevenson is doing? He's reacting even more abrasively when people keep trolling him. And then on top of that, he's turning on everybody. He turned on Bob Arum. He turned on Mark Kriegel, Tim Bradley, Chris Algieri. He's going after everybody. He's threatening to assault Steve Kim, by the way. And, it's all good and well when you're talking about how you're going to assault people. But we've seen Shakur Stevenson assaulting people. And he can't knock anybody out. He punched a woman. Couldn't drop her. So are we expected to believe that, hey, maybe he does beat Steve Kim up? I don't know. I don't know if Steve Kim can fight. I know he's a big dude for an Asian. I mean, he himself always says this. That's what it is. I'm a big guy for an Asian. But, I mean, and by the way, is that really what it comes down to? Somebody has criticism towards you, which is valid criticism, by the way, and your response is, well, I'm going to punch you in the face. So you're not denying that the criticism. You're just saying, well, I don't like the criticism, so I'm going to punch you. I'm going to assault you. I got low impulse control. Let me just assault you. Hey, listen, there's prisons are filled with people, stupid people with low impulse control. You say bad word to me, so I'm going to hit you. You say bad word to me, so I hit you. I assault you. I'm willing to go to jail because you say bad word to me. Okay, I don't know why I sounded Asian in that one, by the way, but I mean, I was trying to make a, retarded accent or something. But the point is this. Shakur Stevenson is out of his mind. That's what it is. And even Terence Crawford, he's trying to rein him in a little bit, but you can tell he doesn't want to really put him on the spot live, on the spot. But he's probably thinking, this dude's out of his mind. This dude is out of his mind. But again, it's a lot of these American fighters are spoiled. That's what Shakur Stevenson is. He's spoiled because he never heard any criticism coming from ESPN or Top Rank back in 2019, 2020, 2021. They were kissing his ass. They were licking his balls, tickling his balls, humming, whatever he wanted, they were doing. But then again, like I said, as soon as they started realizing, hey, this guy's not as good as we thought he was going to be. The punching power, again, skills pay the bills. I agree with that. But if you want to be a star, you need a little something extra. You need to razzle and dazzle people with something. And Shakur Stevenson doesn't bring that to the table. And again, part of that problem is his lack of punching power. But he didn't want to hear it because, again, he was spoiled. He was, what's the word I'm looking for here? He was led to believe that he was something that he was not. And you can tell he's not prepared to face reality. So it is what it is, man. I mean, I'm sorry that's the way it is. This behavior from him is insane. And the people I've heard some people say, yeah, but look at him now. He's well known. Now people know who he is. Is that really how it works? Because I've heard that before. Again, I've heard that from people who say that's the reason why Floyd Mayweather was a big star, because people paid to see him lose. And I don't recall that. I invited plenty of casuals to watch his fights, and they were there under the excuse or the reasoning or the motivation that they were going to see a good fight. I never heard anyone say, hey, I'm going to pay for this fight, the Rolly Guerrero fight. Why? Well, because I want to see Mayweather lose. That's not what it was. It's people just want to see a good fight. And if you fail to deliver a good fight, guess what? You're not a star. And it's the same thing with Shakur Stevenson. Yeah, he's getting plenty of views right now on Twitter and all that. But are those people actually going to pay to watch his fights? No. It doesn't work that way. People immediately translate social media clout and hype with high pay-per-view numbers. That's not how it works, fellas. And it might work with Shakur Stevenson. I don't know, depending on how they promote him. But he's got two things going for him. He's an abrasive personality, and he's boring on top of that. Now, again, I didn't find him boring his last fight. I'm talking in the general sense of most people. They want to see a knockout, and it didn't come. So for them, that's boring. Fellas, I'm opening up the phone lines, by the way. So make sure to call in. I'm going to post the number right there in the left-hand middle portion of your screen. Hold on a second. I'm going to post them up right now. Post the number right now. There we go. Shout out to Official Scorecard Boxing for his contribution with the Super Chat. He says, what's he saying here? Loma made his opponents quit multiple fights in a row. Shakira makes the viewers quit the arena and switch the channel multiple fights in a row. Absolutely. That's well said, Official Steph K. And you know, that again, I gave credit to Shakur Stevenson. The guy's got incredible reflexes. He is very hard to hit, but he's just not entertaining. He tried. And I think that's what irks him the most. That's got to irk him the most, that he really did try to put on a good performance, and it didn't work out. You know, that's, when you try your best at something and you still fail at it, that's what sticks in someone's craw. So I don't blame him. But at least recalibrate your expectations. He's still undefeated. He's still going to be very difficult to beat. All he can do right now at this point is keep winning. But he dug himself a hole by going after anybody and everybody on Twitter. And the type of comments that he's made so far, they end up biting you in the behind as time goes by. I'm also tired of these people who are defending Shakur Stevenson, and they make the same old mistake, the same logical fallacy. It's the either-or fallacy that they commit. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. This is Terence Crawford. In the beginning, I didn't know if it was really Terence Crawford, by the way, because it looks like it's AI-generated. Somebody put a 4K filter, upscale filter on top of it, so it looks weird. Again, I don't know if this is real or not, but I mean, it sounds real, and it looks somewhat real. So here it is. This is Terence Crawford defending Shakur Stevenson against what he calls undue criticism about the Hartunian fight. The Hartunian performance. Let's have a gander.
Does it pain you to watch him?
But by the way, does it pain you? Oh yeah, it pains me, man. I wake up crying every night, man, because Shakur Stevenson was. Wait, what's he expecting to say? Does it pain you? Can you add the melodrama a little bit more there? Lay it on a little thicker there, Mr. Interview Guy.
Kind of, in some ways, be underappreciated and under-recognized, or you look at that as just like, oh, this is just part of the business. All of us have to go through this.
All the greats have been through those type of adversity moments. People talk bad about Floyd Mayweather. Mm-hmm. People talk bad about me. People talk bad about Ali. People won't talk bad about the great ones. They want him to be basic. They want him to sit in front of a guy and slug it out with him for they can say, oh, that was a great fight.
Again, see, that's the either-or fallacy. It's like, oh, either Shakur Stevenson fights the way he wants to fight, or people are saying he has to fight and slug it out. That's not what people are saying. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's some people saying that. But nobody. I mean, boxing fans, the hardcore boxing fans that I've talked to, and I'm talking about you guys out there, and other people as well. I've never heard anyone say, well, either Shakur Stevenson continues to fight the way he wants to, or he slugs it out. That's not what people are saying. People aren't criticizing him for being overly. I mean, obviously some people are, but nobody's demanding that he slugs it out the way Arturo Gatti did, or Mickey Ward did, or Willie Pastrana, or like Carmen Basilio. That's not what people are asking. People are saying, just turn it up a little bit. And then, Shakur Stevenson did that. So, okay, I understand people can't criticize him for that. But now that it's shifted to, well, he tried and he's still boring. That's all people are saying. People are saying this guy tried his best and he still couldn't do anything to Hartunian. That's boring for them. But Terence Crawford apparently equates that to, people just want him to drop his hands and slug it out. That's not what people are saying. That's not what people are saying. And, of course, he's also skirting around the issue that, again, it's valid criticism from people. Like, hey, this guy can't crack an egg. I find that boring. As consumers, I think people have the right to say that. And I mentioned that as consumers that they have the right to do that because look at what Terence Crawford says afterwards.
In front of a guy and slug it out with him for they can say, oh, that was a great fight. That was a wonderful fight. Shakur Stevenson got his head banged out, but he won the fight.
Again, no one's saying he has to get beat up to show his greatness. Although I have heard some people say, like, well, the only way we find out if someone is great is if they go through adversity. But that's a different thing than saying that he absolutely has to slug it out like an idiot to show that he's great. We're not asking for that. So again, Terence Crawford is coming out here with a false argument that at least none of us have made.
That's what they want. But that's not the name of the game. The name of the game is called boxing for a reason. Hit and not get hit.
Well, that's the thing. I agree with him. I mean, it's if you're a boxer, you want to hit the guy as much as you can with limiting the amount of damage you take. The problem with Shakur Stevenson is, and this is where we go back to his technical deficiencies, he doesn't counter enough. He's leaning back in the pocket, and then he'll counter while he's leaning back. Well, when you're leaning back, you can't generate power. That's one of the main problems he has. And until he corrects that, he's going to be notching this type of decisions. And, instead of calling people casuals and idiots and coming up with these logical fallacies that, the people only want to see him slug it out, maybe correct him on his lack of punching power and how he can correct that, how he can fix that, which I believe Crawford did somewhat. But, again, going after the fans, you're only alienating the people that pay to watch you fight, the people that pay your salary. And as consumers, just like boxers like to say, well, we're boxers, our opinion matters more than yours. Look, people find him boring. That's the expert opinion of the consumer. Consumers have the right to say that. That's their opinion. They find him boring. You may not like it, Terence Crawford or other fighters out there. You may not like it, but that's up to the fans. Now, if you want to change it up and impress them and change up your game, okay, you can do that. But until then, this type of fallacies, logical fallacies, it just makes people hate these guys or leads them to hating them.
I think people need to look up the definition of boxing. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of people that claim they know boxing and they follow boxing and they got their YouTube channels and they got their podcasts, but they really don't know boxing. Yeah, they watch boxing.
Again, that's always the cop-out. Well, they don't know what they're watching. They don't know boxing. Again, let's even concede that. Let's say people don't know what they're watching. One thing they do like, and again, that's what I'm going for here, is entertainment. Shakur Stevenson can fight whichever way he wants. Terence Crawford can fight whichever way he wants. Like when he stunk out the joint against Victor Postol, a fight which he barely won, by the way. He barely won that fight. And, he can fight that way. But then you look at the results. 50,000 people bought that pay-per-view. Or I think, no, even less than that. Well, he's gonna say the same thing about them, right? Well, they don't know what they're watching. They don't know what they be watching. They be watching greatness. Well, guess what? People don't want to watch greatness. They don't want to pay for that. Brain surgery takes a lot of skill. That's greatness right there. Most people don't want to watch a 3-hour brain surgery because it's boring. It's rudimentary. I mean, it's impressive once you really think about it that we've gotten to that point as a civilization, but it's still not something that people want to pay for. You have to respect people's rights to that. So yeah, people can, you can try to be condescending and say, well, people don't know what they be watching. But I'm telling you, one thing they want to see is entertainment. And if you can't deliver that, get the fuck out of the way. Because there's plenty of other guys like Naoya Inoue, like Beterbiev, Canelo Alvarez. Even though I haven't really found his last couple of fights that entertaining, but at least he brings it. For some reason, people want to see him fight. They do not want to see Terence Crawford fight. They don't want to see Shakur Stevenson fight.
But they don't even know what they're watching half of the time. You know, they look at boxing and they say, well, he wasn't fighting. Oh, I want to see a good fight. Oh, I want to see these two guys fight. It's always fighting. But that ain't the name of the game. It's called boxing. Why don't they say, oh, I want to see Tank box?
What Shakur Stevenson did against De Los Santos and Nakatila was not boxing. Again, I didn't have a problem with the Hartunian fight. But what he's delivered against Nakatila and against De Los Santos, that was not boxing. So I don't understand why Terence Crawford says that. I mean, again, hit not get hit. Did Shakur Stevenson achieve that goal in the Nakatila and De Los Santos fight? I barely saw any punches landed. If you're running around the ring for 30 seconds at a clip and you can barely land one clean punch, that's not boxing. That's being negative. That's being a scaredy cat. And on top of that, that's not the argument. The argument is people have the right to find that boring. People have the right. So you can be as condescending as you want. People don't know what they're watching, blah, blah, blah. All right, fine. They don't know what they're watching. Guess what? They're not going to pay to watch what they don't understand. So either you switch it up a little bit or we're in a conundrum here where nobody wants to pay to watch you fight.
Shakur. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a boxing match, not a fighting match. If you want to watch fighting, then there's other things like UFC, they fight. They use their feet. They use, the elbows. They kick you.
I don't understand that argument. So it's a fight because they use their feet and their elbows? It's not a fight. People like to say that, MMA is a real fight. It's not a fight. It's still controlled violence, just like boxing. There's rules. You can't stomp a guy in the UFC. You can't knee a guy. You can't eye gouge. You can't fish hook. You can't do toe holds. That's not a fight. There's a referee. I can't kill a guy in the UFC. I can't keep hitting a guy until I kill him. So no, it's not a fight. It's just it's a contest. It's a violent contest with a couple more benefits or a couple more things allowable. But it's the same thing with boxing. At the end of the day, it's two guys fighting each other with boxing gloves. It is a fight. It's controlled violence, and it's a form of show business. So if you don't show the people anything, again, don't be surprised when they don't want to pay to watch you fight. And Terence Crawford's another guy that Top Rank licked his ass, licked it clean, giving him everything he wanted. They even paid him his premium, his quota during the pandemic. And what did Terence Crawford do? They were racist. They didn't give me the fights I wanted, and then on top of that, they were racist. And then he leaves them hanging. So Terence Crawford's another guy, and I've said it before, that's spoiled. You saw him lose his composure, what little composure he has, when Naoya Inoue was being voted as the fighter of the year and pound for pound number 1 in 2023. He kept talking about, no, it was me. I got the quotes here somewhere. If you look at the best of or boxing's most shocking moments of 2023, the Naoya Inoue segment, look at it near the end. I put up some tweets of Terence Crawford losing his shit because he wasn't number 1. I deserve to be number 1. Just crying all the time. These guys can't handle it when criticism is lodged their way.
They do a lot of things, but when we talking about the martial arts of boxing, it's a science to boxing. And I just want people to, know the definition of boxing.
Well, the definition of boxing is not hit and not get hit. If you look at any definition of boxing, it's not worded that way. So it doesn't know what he's talking about. Also, a lot of these fighters now, they like to say, stay in your lane, stay in your lane. Well, again, I reiterate, boxing consumers are staying in their lane. And you know what they're saying? They're saying, we don't want to pay for these guys' fights. So deal with that whatever you want. Yeah, okay, people will stay in their lanes, and they will also choose to avoid watching your fights. Simple as. Fellas, don't forget, hit the like, really helps us out. Let me go to the phone lines here. We've got a couple of people calling in. Let's go to the phone lines. What the fuck is going on? Something, did you hear that echo? There was a loop going on there. 410, you're in the air, 410. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Jerry?
Man, fuck Shakur Stevenson's little spoiled ass, man. This is a guy that's got all kinds of tools in his tool bag. That last fight, come on, man. That was no better almost than the fight he had before, which was fucking the worst title fight I've ever seen in 40 years of watching boxing. And according to the CompuBox numbers, it was the lowest punches landed. It was the worst fucking fight you've ever seen. Now, this guy, there's no excuse for him. That 5-fight deal that he was offered by Top Rank, it's my understanding it was offered prior to his fight 2 fights ago before he put in that super stinker. There was an extension deal. That wasn't before he left out the door. Top Rank didn't want him. If I'm Bob Arum, man, you stole $3 million from me that night, because that's what he got paid. You literally stole $3 million from me. Then he comes back, he fights this guy, Artunian. Artunian's a nice guy. I'm not hating on him, but the fact of the matter is, Shakur Stevenson had every single advantage. He was taller, longer, stronger, younger, just every advantage. Better footwork, better boxing, and it was Artunian that was initiating most of the exchanges. This guy is a straight-up boring fighter, and he's a product of his generation. They don't want to work. He doesn't want to put in the work. He could maybe be sensational, but I don't give a fuck what Bud Crawford or none of these guys say, and I agree with you. They always want to, you don't know boxing. Get the fuck out of here. Here's what we know. We know boring. If you want to claim a high ground that we don't know boxing because you're a pro, okay, but we know boring, and we ain't fucking paying for boring. Boxing is hit and not get hit, okay, fine. But first, it's hit. And there's where Stevenson's first mistake is. He's a fighter that will sacrifice his offense for defense. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants to see that. Promoters fucking hate it. The crowds hate it. It's not boxing. It's spoiling. Now let me move on to Bud Crawford, because I wouldn't compare Crawford to Shakur Stevenson. Not in the ring. To me, he ain't nothing like Bud Crawford. Crawford's got dog in him. Crawford gets hits in his fights. He'll take a couple to land his. But Bud Crawford should be criticized for this upcoming fight against this 10-fight novice. I don't give a fuck what nobody says, man. This guy has been the consensus pound-for-pound #1 fighter. He's been very fucking inactive. And he's going to fight this guy that's got 10 fights. Now, anyone can see Magnemov is strong, and he's a physical guy. Anyone can see that, but the guy's got 10 fights, and he doesn't even have a good resume in those 10 fights necessarily. The comp has been guys that he should have been beating, and he has, okay? But this is a fucking... Bud Crawford said he only wanted big fights, and here he is fighting this 10-fight novice. So to me, if Canelo did that, I would be on his ass too, but I hear fans trying to blow Magnemov up, and okay, it's a prize fight. Anything can happen, okay, but to me, there's a huge gap in experience. Magnemov is a big underdog, and it's a disappointment for me.
Let me ask you something, though, Jerry. Let me ask you. You said you've been watching boxing for 40 years. Now, I don't watch other sports, really. I don't follow other sports. I don't know if there's NFL guys who have Twitter accounts or NHL guys who have Twitter accounts, whatever. But is there any other sport where the athletes have a line of communication directly to the fans? And do these guys talk down on the fans as much as some of these boxing people do? Because I see boxers, I see promoters, they love to talk down on the fans whenever they have any form of criticism.
Yeah, NFL players have access to Twitter and things like that, but boxing's unique in many, many ways. And the reason it's unique is because it's unregulated or unorganized, is what I say. It's an unorganized sport. So simply put, and in those other sports, a big market team has to play a small market team at the end. If the small market team is in contention, they have to play them. In boxing, that's not the case. The big market fighters don't have to fight. The rankings, they're fucking bullshit. They've been bullshit almost the whole time. They're bought and paid for. They put guys in line. This guy Magnemov, with all due respect to him, he shouldn't even have a title in 10 fights. But in this 4-belt era with all these fucking belts, if you got the right promotion, they will get you to the title. Rolly Romero is one example, 2-time world champion. And he's basically a clown I'm against the 4-belt era, but boxing different. In so many ways, it's always been corrupt. It's unorganized, and so nothing's really a surprise. Especially when it comes to the rankings. I hear people talk about, well, he's the IBF this and he's the WBK. Man, don't shut the fuck up. They make the rules up as they go along. It's just that simple. We've seen here in the last couple of years where guys are getting beat, knocked out, and moving up a division and fighting for the title in the very first fucking fight, coming off of a KO loss at a division below. You're seeing this happen routinely. That should tell any boxing fan all they need to know about what the rankings truly are. So when I hear people talk about, he's the number one this, David Benavidez has been the number one WBC super middleweight over 2 years now. They don't even say anything about mandating Canelo to fight him. I mean, how's that work out? I could go on and on and on. But right now, I'm about sick of fucking hearing about Shakur Stevenson. Just like a couple weeks ago, I was sick about hearing another clown, Ryan Garcia. And like I say, then you got the sports top representatives like Canelo talking about fighting Eubank. That's fucking garbage. And Bud Crawford fighting this guy with 10 fights. These are the sports top representatives, man. They should be held to a higher standard. And then he got some fucking award a couple of weeks ago for Fighter of the Year, and he hasn't even fucking fought. He hasn't even fought yet. What if Magomedov pulls an upset and beats him? And he's SB Fighter of the Year or whatever? The whole fucking thing is a pile of junk, man. And I'm getting tired of paying for it.
You're right, man. You're absolutely
right.
Yeah, you're right, man. It's getting I mean, hey, listen. There's the good and the bad, but there's some weird things going on with boxing right now. All right, well, listen, Jerry, we've got to move on here, but thank you for your call, and call back next time, all right? Take it easy.
All right, brother. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah. All right, hey, fellas, don't forget to hit that like. Really helps us out. Don't forget that we're taking phone calls here. The phone lines are open, so make sure to call in. Give us your thoughts on anything and everything boxing. Shout out to Black New World Order, who says, can y'all see my comments? And there you see they've got a nice little avatar there. Even Abel, the Hand History Vault, shout out to the Hand History Vault, says, even Abel Mendoza has more street credit than Crawfish. At least Mendoza fights anyone put in front of him. Who the hell is Abel Mendoza? Is he talking about the Mendoza, the 154 Mendoza? I think maybe that's who he's referring to. Shout out to the Hand History Vault. Shout out to Amak PVP for his contribution with the super chat. He says, it's called boxing, not dancing with the stars. Hashtag fuck logic. I mean, yeah, these guys don't understand it. They love to lecture fighters, but then they don't really, they don't understand that, okay, you can fight whichever way you want, but you can't force people to watch that. That's the thing. Again, that just shows you how entitled they are. They're thinking, well, I'm going to fight whichever way I want, and I'm expecting you guys to pay because I'm that great. What I'm doing is that fantastic and impressive, majestic, that you guys ought to pay for that. Some of these guys, I'm telling you, some of these people are deluded. Shout out to Earl Stevens for his contribution with the super chat. He says, most of the FBA boxers are anarchists, tearing down the sport for selfish reasons. Absolutely. Very well said. They're too narcissistic. That's why Terence Crawford couldn't handle it when he didn't become Ring Magazine or ESPN's Fighter of the Year. He fought once, by the way. He fought once against the town drunk, as I'm your leader likes to say. And he expected that to carry him all the way to pound-for-pound fight. Even ever since then, Usyk and Inoue have completely overtaken him as pound-for-pound fighters. But now he's fighting, so he should be able to make a statement. But I'm telling you, and then on top of that, again, you heard Terence Crawford saying, people don't know what they're watching, they don't know boxing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine, they don't know what they're watching. They want to see a good fight. They don't want to see running. As soon as you start running and moving more than you're actually punching, you're going to lose a lot of people, and that includes a bulk of the casuals. So a lot of people thought, well, Terence Crawford got himself that big win over Errol Spence, so he must be a star, right? Especially since he's going to be fighting in a card that is jam-packed, perhaps the best card that we have in the next 5 months. Unfortunately, that doesn't translate to success, because according to this guy on Twitter, Mr. Pullup, it's not doing that well. There's a lot of tickets available still, even with that tremendous card. supporting the main event. And there's some Mexicans in there, like Isaac Cruz versus Rayo Valenzuela. Still not helping. The Terence Crawford is not a star. He had himself a lot of clout, a lot of momentum going after the Errol Spence fight, but he lost it. Now, again, some of that wasn't his fault necessarily. I mean, it's the PBC sort of harangued him and then stalled his career, making him wait for an Errol Spence rematch that never came. Remember, Errol Spence activated his rematch clause, and from what I understand, and for as long as he activated that clause, Errol Spence did, Crawford couldn't do anything. So I sympathize with him, but he's still been inactive for a long time. I think that rematch clause ended in January 2024. So he could have fought beforehand. So it took a while here, and he's a guy that's always been very abrasive towards the media. He said it himself. He's not the best, most articulate person out there. So and then on top of that, like I said, he called Top Rank racist. He started complaining a lot about not being the fighter of the year. So he soured a couple of people. And even with all of that being said, just from a pugilistic standpoint and from a business standpoint, he is not a star. He needs that Canelo payday or that Canelo fight to make a mega fight. And he doesn't have it. He's fighting a guy in Madrimov, who, by the way, I disagree with people that say Madrimov's a bad fighter. He's very good. Although I will say I'm kind of suspicious or hesitant to say that he's much better than what he could be, because he's only really faced two good opponents in Soro and Kurbanov. And there's not much we can glean. We can glean some things, but I don't know how he's going to react to fighting one of the best pound-for-pound fighters out there. So again, that fight, I don't know how it's going to do pay-per-view wise, and at the gate, it's not doing that well either. Just not doing that well. So, Terence Crawford, again, you reap what you sow. You want to lecture people, wag your finger at them saying, you don't know boxing, you don't know what you're talking about, look up the definition of boxing. Okay, you're losing a lot of casuals. And then on top of that, you might be driving away a lot of hardcores as well. So who's going to pay to watch you fight? Nobody owes these fighters anything. Nobody owes them a payday. They have to earn it by being interesting inside the ring. Fellas, don't forget to hit the like. The like really helps us out. Let's go to the phone lines real quick. Let's go to 347. 347, you're on the air. 347, what's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's NPR. How you guys doing?
Oh, NPR, man, what's up?
Well, I can barely hear you, but that's probably my bad. Look, I want to talk about Nakatani and some of the things that I've seen from him. First of all, I'd like to premise this with saying that he's an exciting fighter. He's a scrapper. He's got great power. So it's not like I don't like the guy. I think he's a good fighter to watch, a great fighter to watch, and all his fights are exciting. But I've noticed some things and some patterns in what he does that are just, he takes unnecessary damage, and he gives up a lot. He gives up a lot of his natural advantages, which is primarily his height, right? He's got great reach, but he gives that up and does some things in the ring and I don't know what it is about it. I think it might be the kind of Japanese mentality where they don't want to retreat or something. I don't know, but I don't know what it is. But anyway, I want to talk about that. So one of the things he does, and I noticed this when he was fighting that little Puerto Rican guy, that he broke his nose. He broke the Puerto Rican guy's nose. He throws this single jab with no consequence. When you throw a jab, you do it as a setup a punch, or you do it and then you move out of the way, or you do it and duck under, or you do it as a double jab. You always, there's a consequence to your jab. It's never just throwing a single jab for no reason. And he kept putting it out there, and he kept cutting it caught once. And even this guy who had a lot of disadvantages on him, size-wise for sure, was able to catch that and punch him dead in the face time after time after time. So that's something that he does that there's no reason for it, and he does it anyway. The second thing that I wrote down over here was that he keeps his head flush on the line. And even in the highlight, like the fight highlight of where he threw a 2-punch combination, had the Puerto Rican guy against the ropes. This guy was able to catch him dead in the face with by punching in between the shots. And so even this guy who had far less skills than he did was able to catch him flush time after time. The third thing that I wrote down over here was that he gives up on his reach advantage. He has this great reach advantage where once a guy is able to kind of collapse in on him, he doesn't take a step back. And he's not able to do things like walk a guy into punches, for instance. Like Inoue was able to take a half a step back and then come up with an uppercut and knock that guy out, the last guy he fought. Even with his back against the ropes, he walked the guy into a punch. Nakatani doesn't do that, so these are some weaknesses that I see in Nakatani, and as a result of that, he takes far too much damages. And what's most disconcerting to me is him giving up his reach. He's got this great reach. He's got great power, right? He's got dynamic power, especially with his dominant hand, right? So anyway, that's all. Those are my thoughts on the Nakatani, where he is and what he looks like. I haven't really seen much change fight to fight. I haven't seen him add anything. It is what it is. You're getting the same guy each time, which is, I guess, exciting. You know what to expect. But these things, I think, if he were to work on some of them, he'd be just absolutely dominant. Anyway, gentlemen, thanks for having me to talk to you guys. I'll see you later.
All right, thank you for your call, NPR. Great points right there, breaking it down, and catch you in the next one, man. Take it easy.
Later.
Yeah, it's true, because, I mean, if there was a Nakatani fight that I'd seen prior to the Chivas Rodriguez fight, and it was outdoors, it was in the United States. I don't know if that's the one that NPR is referring to, but he was getting hit a lot. Now you can see that Nakatani controls the distance better. He uses his feet and his length to keep guys away. But he's an offensive fighter, too, at the end of the day. He likes to counter, and he likes to put himself in positions where the guys, he likes to draw his opponents out so he can counter them. And that's liable to get him hit. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I've never really heard anyone break it down that way, the way NPR did. But, yeah, we'll see what happens this Saturday, man. Again, he's taking on a strong fighter in Astrolabio. He's not going to lay down, I don't think. I mean, if Nakatani is able to stop him early, which he might because he has that type of power, again, with the size advantage, too, he might be able to stop him and look impressive. And then afterwards, we'll see what happens with Bam Rodriguez. But again, yeah, that Bam Rodriguez fight would be interesting because Bam Rodriguez, we know, is the real deal. But, there's going to be a discrepancy there. Height and reach discrepancy. Even though Bam Rodriguez has long-ass arms, though. Doesn't seem like it, but he does. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. It really helps us out. Let me read a super chat here. Shout out to JXV88. Shout out to JXV88 for his contribution to the super chat. He says, Benavidez has to make his decision by tomorrow. Yeah, that's the thing. I've omitted myself from talking about this Canelo Benavidez subject because it's very tiresome. Just like Jerry said, talking about Ryan Garcia and all that. To me, this whole Canelo Benavidez saga is boring. But it is quite telling that Benavidez needed 2 weeks to decide what he was going to do. Then they requested another week. Well, I don't know if they requested it though, actually. But for some reason, the WBC gave him another week to decide, and apparently that's coming to an end tomorrow. Some people were speculating that they're waiting for Canelo to make his decision on who he's going to fight, and not put themselves in there, in the running for that fight, so that when Canelo decides who he's going to fight, the Benavidez team can say, "Oh, you see, he didn't want to fight us." Because again, I don't understand. You got the WBC mandatory status. Now enforce it. Go for that fight. His team appears unwilling to do that. I don't think any one fighter is scared of another fighter. I don't think Canelo's scared of Benavidez, and I don't think, and vice versa. I don't think Benavidez is scared of anybody. But it's the teams that almost always are at fault here. And one thing that a lot of people have been telling me was that supposedly Benavidez is walking around at 230. Right now, he's weighing in about 200 plus pounds. And I said, what? Where did people hear that? What's going on here? Well, apparently he said it himself on his Instagram page. Now, I don't know if he's trolling, even though he said it before in another interview that he walks around over 200 pounds. Right now, he said he's walking at 230. 230. Do you guys believe that? Do you really think he's walking at 230? Because if you believe that, that means he's shedding, let's say, 30 pounds to get to 200. And then, my goodness, so he's shedding more, close to 50 pounds to get to 168. I don't know, man. I don't know. I know he's a big guy. He's a big lurch-looking cat. But is he really walking around at 230? I can't believe that. If it is the case, then it might explain why he's taking his sweet-ass time to decide whether he wants to enforce his mandatory position at 168 or whether he's going to campaign at 175. Now, remember, he's no longer with Memo Heredia, or at least he didn't have Memo Heredia in his last fight against Gvozdyk. And what a coincidence. I mean, I don't know. Do I believe in coincidences? I'm on the fence about that, but what a coincidence that he's no longer with Memo Heredia for the Gvozdyk fight at 175. All of a sudden, his punches don't have the same effect on a guy like Gvozdyk. Now, again, it was a 175, and Gvozdyk looked big in there. But you do have to wonder, are they going to go back to Memo if indeed they return to the 168-pound division? Makes you wonder. What else? Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like. We got the phone lines open. Make sure to call in. Give us your thoughts on everything going on in boxing. Let's read a couple of comments here from the people. The people have spoken. JumpTube says, the only thing I can think of is maybe the WBC did it for Oscar to get Shakur to sign with Golden Boy Promotions. All right, they're talking about Shakur Stevenson with potential Cepeda fight. Team Batman Boxing says, obviously, Inoue is another level, but Junto is the second best Japanese fighter active in my opinion and beats Bam Rodriguez. Yeah, that Bam Rodriguez fight, I mean, I don't, it's a big hide and reach disadvantage. At least a high disadvantage for Bam Rodriguez. And really, Bam Rodriguez has fought two punchers. He fought Sorong Visai, but he was too slow to really get to him. And the last big puncher, or if you want to go with punching power, Estrada, who can crack a little bit. And you saw what he did to Bam Rodriguez, he dropped him. So against Nakatani, he would be facing a legit power puncher in his prime, a prime power puncher. So it's interesting how that would work, or how that would look. I don't know if they really want to go for that right off the bat. Again, Bam Rodriguez has a potential fight against Puma Martinez. Puma just beat Ioka in Japan, by the way. In Japan. So that's a very interesting fight to make right there before we even start talking about Bam Rodriguez at 118. The other thing is, in terms of boxing business, I'm looking at the Jake Paul versus Mike Perry fight. I don't know how well it's doing or how well it's going to do pay-per-view wise. I know Jake Paul brings in a lot of casuals, a lot of Zoomers. 2 years ago when they first started this whole Jake Paul venture, I remember thinking and asking you guys, like, how far can this go? How far can he take this? And Jake Paul certainly seems to have been working hard at being a boxer, a legit boxer. But then also people have pointed out how he's fighting a lot of old guys. And then on top of that, he's not fighting real boxers, he's fighting old MMA guys. And you can really see the difference between a boxing professional, even though he might be old, against an MMA guy trying to box. It's not the same thing. There's been this misconception from a lot of MMA people that think, well, since MMA guys can do it all, they can box, they can kickbox, they can Muay Thai, they can do Jiu-Jitsu, they can wrestle. That means that if you just give them enough time, they can become good pro boxers. And it's not the same thing, because a lot of these guys train for grappling. So their musculature and the fibers in their muscles, it's sometimes it's counterintuitive to boxing, because they're actually pulling instead of pushing, which is what you're doing with boxing. And so they don't develop the same snap on their shots as some guys. I mean, look at Conor McGregor. For a long time, he was considered the best striker in MMA. And then you saw him against Floyd Mayweather, After 2 rounds, he lost with a little snappy out on his shots, and he was mostly thudding with his blows. So it's boxing, when you got these professional guys who have been at this since they were 15, 12, some of them even since they were 8 years old. Their bodies are conditioned to hit as quick as possible, telegraph their shots as little as possible, to shoot them as straight as possible, and it makes a heck of a lot of difference. It makes a world of difference from how fast one punch can get from you to the target. And that's what these MMA guys don't understand. They hit the pads a little bit, they spar, and then all of a sudden they think, oh, well, I can box professionally. There's a whole lot more nuance to boxing than just punching. You gotta set your feet properly. You gotta work your way in. You gotta work your way into range. You gotta be able to see all of these things in real time, compute them all at the same time, and then fire the punch, and then be able to take a punch back or to defend from it. Case in point, a guy like Vasyl Lomachenko, when you watch his fight against Lopez, when he started pressing Lopez, think about how precarious a situation he was in that fight. He's pushing a boxer-puncher back who has quick hands on top of that. Teofimo Lopez has lightning quick hands, and he can crack. Lomachenko he's putting himself in danger in that fight by pressing, and he's throwing a jab, and then immediately he's covering up. 1-2, covering up, turns him, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what he was doing. So that type of stuff that he's doing, he didn't learn that one day prior to the fight, 1 year prior to it. He's been doing that. He had to refine that for his entire boxing career. So to expect MMA guys to go in there and be able to do half of what some of these pros do in 2 years, it's not going to happen. So all of that to say that Jake Paul is fighting these dudes. And he's doing it, by the way, apparently this Mike Perry fight is at 200 pounds or all a heavyweight. And this guy apparently is walking around at 220, Jake Paul. 220, way too muscular. Already his stamina sucks or is subpar. You've seen his fights. He throws 1-2. After the second round, you can tell he gets real tired. And after that, he throws a 1-2, and he has to clinch. Or he has to run away to recharge the batteries. Again, most people don't know how tiresome it is to just box in there. I mean, I haven't sparred in a long time because of the pandemic. If I go in there right now, even with the experience I have and all that, I don't think I last a round and a half. I'm going to be gasping for air. That's how demanding boxing is. So I don't fault Jake Paul for that because, again, he's not a professional fighter. But I also think, or I'm doubting, whether this added musculature is actually going to help him. I think it's going to be a hindrance to him because he punches with everything. He puts everything into his shots. And he's more often than not, he's going to miss because he's not a professional boxer. He's not that refined. So when you miss punches and you're putting everything in them, that takes a lot out of you. So I don't know. I've never seen this Mike Perry box. All I know is that he's been recently fighting in the bare knuckle league or whatever they call it. So, he can take punishment. He's willing to fight. But whether he's going to be able to get to Jake Paul, I don't know. And then they're talking about how if Jake Paul beats this dude, they're putting him in there against Mike Tyson. Think about it. This Mike Tyson, who's closer to being a senior citizen than Jake Paul is to being 40. I mean, this is insane. I don't understand. So I'm curious to see where this Jake Paul train goes. Because after he lost to Tommy Fury, I said, well, there you go. There goes the O, which is what he was building his brand on. Like, how long can Jake Paul go before somebody hands him his first loss? Well, he lost. And yet his brand didn't take as big a hit as I thought it would. So evidently he's got followers. So, I mean, that's my little rant on the Jake Paul thing. I mean, it's a business thing. He's doing good numbers. He does appear to want to, he's doing good things for female boxing. He's promoting that Puerto Rican woman, Puerto Rican boxer. So he's doing right by her. She's got nothing to say, but good things to say about him. So, hey, maybe after all is said and done, Jake Paul starts hanging his hat in the boxing business and starts promoting fighters. And maybe he makes the good fights happen. I don't know. It's doubtful because it's one guy. And we see what happens when one person, even though he might have a lot of money, when he goes in the boxing business and tries to change things, the rest of the promoters get together and freeze that person out. I mean, there's a lot of tactics and strategies that they can implement to hinder an up-and-coming promoter. So that's one of the things we got to watch out for right there. Be that as it may, yeah, man. I mean, we've got a lot of good things. See, I want to go back to the Jaron Ennis thing because for a long time, again, the Ring Magazine, they said that in that article of theirs, they're predicting Jaron Ennis to become the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world. And I'm thinking, I've said it before, I favor Virgil Ortiz over Jaron Ennis if they ever fight. because Virgil Ortiz, although he might be a tad slower than Jaron Ennis, he nevertheless hits as hard as Jaron Ennis. He can crack with both hands, and he's also well schooled. I think he's got better technique than Jaron Ennis. Now, that, having, what's the word I'm looking for here? Standard technique over a more unorthodox approach doesn't necessarily mean that it's an advantage. But when you combine both guys' styles, when you combine the fact that they both hit hard, I think that would be an advantage for Virgil Ortiz because he's just more compact. I've never really seen, Kabaluska stunned Ortiz, but he didn't drop him. If you rewatch that fight, he never actually dropped Ortiz. He missed with a right hand and Ortiz fell. That's why they didn't count it a knockdown. After he got hurt, he was able to recuperate and he took it to Kavaluskas and made him quit. Jaron Ennis has been hurt by non-punchers before. So, how do you think that happens? If they start getting into exchanges, what do you think? Who gets to the chin first is what's really going to count. And we saw a Venetian get to Ennis. We saw, what's his name? I can't believe I'm forgetting the names here. That I just mentioned it before. Well, anyway, we saw a Dominican guy hurt Ennis early on in his career. And then we saw, what was the guy's name? The Russian guy, Lipinets. Yeah, Lipinets stunned Jaron Ennis as well. So there's a path to be taken there against Jaron Ennis. Also, Jaron Ennis, he couldn't work his way in against Karen. And, when Virgil Ortiz fought a tricky fighter in that British Southpaw, he was able to get to him and take him out. So I still think Virgil Ortiz would take it to Jaron Ennis and beat him. Now, do I say that with the utmost of confidence? No, I think it's close to a 50-50 fight because both guys are that powerful when it comes to their offense. That I wouldn't, it's live by the gun, by the gun in that fight. But I would favor Virgil Ortiz, and Jaron Ennis he's too open in there and too focused on offense to I believe, to really, stay away from Virgil Ortiz for all 12 rounds. Unless, like I said, unless he gets to Virgil Ortiz first. Fellas, don't forget to hit the like. It really helps us out. Let's go to the phone lines. 470, you're in the air. 470, what's on your mind?
Hey, Too Rich, a.k.a. Mr. I Respect the Belt. Hey, I talked to you about a week ago or so. Shout out to you. But let's see where we get started at. I heard you just talking about Jaron Boots, Ennis. And the way I describe Boots is what I saw in that fight against Ebenezer. I played baseball for 13 years, right? So I kind of bring that same aspect to boxing. So I look at a guy that take punches. Was that a skill punch that landed? Because that's okay, because, fighters going to take punches. Or was it an error on the boxing? And what I saw with Jaron Boots Ennis, I saw errors. I saw him making, certain errors was the reason why he was getting hit. Now, we know he was a bigger, powerful guy, because to me, he's a 160-pounder and there with a 147-pounder. But he, I just think he's a little, like you were saying, he's a little too open, and a lot of people say, well, he wasn't worried about nothing coming back. He wasn't worried about Ebenezer sending nothing back. That's why he was a little lackadaisical. My problem with that is if you wasn't worried about anything coming back from Ebenezer was the biggest name on your resume. Who have you been fighting? Who have you been fighting that you have, that you haven't sharpened up the skill to worry about? Because that's muscle memory. Putting your hand back, bringing the phone back to your ear, doing certain things is muscle memory. So I have questions about who he's sparring and why although a dominant performance, but kind of lackadaisical if you're talking about putting him in there with Crawford. Now, what I've said on other sites is that I don't think Jaron Boots Ennis beats Jermell Charlo. Because, Jermell Charlo's a dog. Virgil Ortiz a dog. These guys, you're not going to just, walk in there and be a showman. And Jaron Boots Ennis is built as a showman. Like, every fight is about him coming to show out. You know what I mean? And I don't think that if you got a guy that his only job is to come show out, he's not fighting nobody. And this is why I say I respect the belts. I need to see a guy beat a champion. I need to see him beat a former champion, a guy who know what it means to be at the top. Because a lot of people talk about skills, but they don't talk about the mentality that it takes. And what I see in Jaron Boots Ennis is a novice mentality. It's only go out there and show out and kind of like walk up to a heavy bag and start punching it. I didn't see him using his jab to close the distance. I'm just seeing him walk up to the guy and start punching. Crawford or any of those A-class fighters are going to take advantage of that. That's all I'm saying. They're going to send something back. So I don't think Boots is ready for Crawford or anybody at 154, not after that particular performance. That's my opinion on that. Now, as far as Madrimov and Crawford, I hear the criticism. I understand it. But I would implore people to don't think just like a fan. You have to think like a coach, right? Before the Errol Spence fight, Crawford took the Avanesian fight. Avanesian was coming off a 6-fight knockout win streak when he faced Crawford. So that really wasn't just anybody, but it was the perfect training that he needed to go ahead for the Errol Spence. So Crawford seemed like he was on another level. When I look at the Madrimov fight, I see a guy that's getting ready for Canelo. And he's taking fights at a heavier weight so he can get used to what to expect. So I do see this as a more of a get ready fight. Now you have to understand, he was supposed to be fighting Fundora, and Errol Spence jumped in the way of that fight. So now we getting the Madrimov fight. But I like this fight as far as Terrence Crawford getting ready. Now I understand, I don't think it's a pay-per-view fight. I will say that. I don't think it's a pay-per-view fight, but I think it's a good fight if I'm thinking like a coach for my fighter to get ready. And what I see in Boots, they're not getting Boots ready for Crawford. They just want to shoot him up there because they think that Boots is good, but he hasn't proven it yet. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is because Ennis has been so mismanaged in the last 4 years. I mean, he wasn't fighting often. He was relegated to fighting nobody. So you can't really improve. As good as he might be, you can't improve if you're being stalled, if your career is being stalled. So I think that's what happened. Be that as it may, even though he did get hit a lot against Avanesian, and like I said in the beginning of this program, the way you can tell that he wasn't planning on getting hit with those shots is the way he would react to them. It's one thing to get your head snapped back a little bit, and then but you keep coming back, or you come back with 2 shots straight away. He would be hit and get into a defensive position real quick, like, holy shit, I didn't see that one coming. So that's how I qualify those or differentiate those two things. But he did get the job done against the Venetian. He beat him up. It's not, if he would have been a fake or if he would have been a chump, Venetian would have done to him what he did to Josh Kelly, a guy that some people were overhyping over there in the UK. So I give Ennis a lot of props for that. But like you said, yeah, he's got a long way to go to refine certain aspects of his technique, because like you said, he was doing certain things just for the sakes of doing them. There appeared to be no real purpose to set up something big in between, like Crawford did to Avanesian. That was the difference between their fights. So you're right, man. Go ahead. Yeah, so what I'm saying is, if he continues fighting and they keep putting him in there against guys that are going to test him, I think he could eventually get to that point of being that refined a fighter. But it remains to be seen.
Okay, so now to kind of go and segue into the other things that I was talking about. Now, when we think about Boots, he's always been billed as he's got to have a good performance. He has to show out and look good for the crowd. And I'm saying when that's the idea for a fighter, he's not fighting nobody, and he's not getting better. But corporate interests, they tend to want to control the parameters of what we think excitement is. So they want to give us what they think excitement is. And this is the problem with boxing. So if you think people like Tank Davis, okay, we got to put him in there with the right guy. We're not letting him fight the best guys. We're going to put him in there with a guy that he could deliver the knockout and people are entertained. You see what I mean? But every guy's not going to be a knockout artist. So when you putting together these subpar fights, and then Shakur gets in there, and he don't necessarily look as good as you want him to look in this subpar fight, we seem to have a problem with it. But I think it's because of corporate interest. You're not putting the guy in there with nobody. You are trying to be careful. You're trying to minimize risk and maximize reward. So you're not actually letting these guys fight and get better. So the public is not becoming more knowledgeable about boxing. And to understand that, I know you say you didn't watch any other sport. Well, football or the NFL, if you go back to the 80s, right, they had something what they call player empowerment. So at this point, the owners were controlling everything, and they felt like the sport wasn't growing. So they had player empowerment. So now when you look at the NFL, all you hear about is the players' contracts, how much they're going to make, and they really present the players as the stars of the game. And the owners have taken the back, been pushed to the background. Well, in boxing, it's different. The promotional companies are as famous as the boxers. You see what I mean? So they're not empowering these boxers. They're trying to control what we think boxing look like. Instead of putting the best in there with the best and allowing two guys fighting to be the entertainment, they want to pick out the two guys that go together to give us the entertainment. The problem is the numbers are proving that's not working. That is not working. The only reason Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia was able to do well because people knew Tank Davis and they knew Ryan Garcia. It was a fight where people knew both of the names. You see what I mean? So we have too many fights where, okay, as a hardcore fan, when Terrence Crawford and Spence got ready to fight, I'm walking around, hey, man, it's the creme de la creme. This is the top of the ladder, man. This is going to be a great fight. I'm really, just really intriguing, hyping up the fight. So casual fans saw my interest. And so they kind of looked at the fight because how excited I was. Okay, but now Tank is going to fight Frank. What am I going to say? Tank fighting. Who he fighting? Frank. Frank who? Man, you don't know. Frank Jenkins, Frank White, Frank Martin. You don't know. So even though he's going to give us a knockout, what we get, 350,000 pay-per-views, nobody's really watching for that. Because when football grows, it's because the hardcore fan translated knowledge to the casual fan. So the casual fan started to learn about play-action passes. They started to learn about blitzes. They started to learn. And now you have a lot more women watching football because they understand what it is they're looking at. So for my example, I'm in America. I don't really look at football as in soccer type style football. I don't look at that. But I see the interest from some of my African co-workers, and they really excited when, the World Cup is coming on. And it's like, it's hard for me to gain the excitement because I don't understand the intricacies of the sport. I don't know what I'm really looking at. I see a score of 3-1 or 4-1. I don't know if that's good, that's bad, because that's my ignorance. My point is, the information hasn't been translated to me to understand what I'm looking at. So I think they're dumbing down the public with these A side plus BC side fights, and they're trying to blame the public for not supporting boxing or fire sticking the fights when they're just not giving us the product that we really and truly want. Okay. We wanted Tank and Devin. Did we get it? We was told that wasn't a big fight when all the fight fans wanted to see Tank versus Devin. They didn't give us that fight. Now we want to see Tank versus Shakur, and we got to be convinced that Shakur is not a big fight. But they take Loma, a guy who has proven he lost twice. I'm not saying Loma's not good, but you got to look at how they're picking and choosing the fights. They're giving us what they think his name, and they got this from Mayweather. If you look at Mayweather box record, all those great fights we think he fought, those guys have already lost 5 or 6 fights. But the hindsight is 20/20, so we understand that now. So everybody's not falling for that again. We're not falling for that. You just want to give us a name, but it's an easier fight for you than fighting the guy that you want to call boring. Ain't that convenient? The toughest fight for you is the guy that you want to call boring, so you're not going to fight him.
Well, you know what?
See, these are excuses.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of things there. You touched on a lot of things there. First of all, there's a lot of fighters now, a lot of fans right now of promotional companies. For a long time, you had the PBC fanboys. Then you do have people that sort of cook for Matchroom. Then you have the Top Rank fanatics because, Top Rank's been around forever. So these people love Top Rank. They love to defend them. At the end of the day, I'm for whoever brings boxing. But therein lies the problem. Because you said that, they have to make the good matchups to really hype people up and get them interested. But even then, even when they make the good fights happen, like, for example, this Terence Crawford-Madrimov fight, okay, I understand that most casuals don't know who Madrimov is or even Terence Crawford. But most hardcore boxing fans should be flocking towards this event because the undercard has to be the second best undercard of the year compared to the what was the 6 versus 6 or whatever it was. To me, that was the best card of the year so far. But this one is a close second. No, the people aren't buying the tickets, and apparently, from what I understand, is the tickets are overpriced. So even when you have the perfect fight card, it's still hard to get people in there because then there's the second factor, which is the ticket prices. And the ticket prices, too, are dictated by the boxer's pay. Terence Crawford is not a star, but he wants to be paid like a star. Same thing like Shakur Stevenson, same thing with Tank Davis. These guys want to get paid, they get paid, I think Tank Davis makes $3 million a year per fight, even though they're big events at the gate. But he doesn't really make 5, 10, from what I understand. Maybe I'm wrong. So how much do you think he's going to want to face a guy like Shakur Stevenson? And vice versa. Shakur Stevenson disliked that $3 million fight per deal that Top Rank was trying to give him. So if you match him up with Tank Davis, how much do you think he's going to want? He's going to want 10 mil to start off. So that's a problem too. These guys are spoiled. There's a lot of barriers in boxing. And hopefully this Sheikh guy, the Arab guy, is starting to tear them down with his money. But even then, if he pays, he gives these guys the money they want, essentially he's spoiling them. It's like, it's like if a little kid says, I want candy, and you give it to him, well, you end up losing because the next time he's going to ask again and again and again. He's going to get into his head that he can get whatever he wants. So boxing, it's a bit tricky.
Okay, so I got a remedy for that. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what will make boxing more exciting. It's too many guys. We have too many guys with zeros and all these wins. It's time to start playing for losses. Meaning you got two. Okay, even if you got to pay them right now, you got two guys with an O. They're both undefeated. We got to crash them out, and we got to make somebody take a L. So we should no longer be playing for wins. We should be as a fans. We should be paying for losses. We want to see who's going to take a L. Now, I'm going to tell you how this is going to work. If we start crashing these boxing, these prima donnas, like you said, it's overpricing the market and everything. If we start crashing them together and we start giving them L's, we now start to drive the price down. See, as they take these L's, their price is going to start dropping, right? And we'll start eliminating some of the fighters that we think are good, that is not maybe as good as they are, just being promoted right and moved right, match made right. We got to give them L's, and that will drive the price down. You see what I mean? And now as the new fighters come up, they'll start to see, no, these guys are going to make you fight. There's no more easy paydays. Even if it's Turkey Ali Sheik, if he to form it into a league and into a tournament style, we will eliminate some of these fighters. And now the new crop of fighters will come up under a new pay scale that's more affordable, that will make a lot more sense. So if you look at the NFL, the average player in the NFL only lasts 3 to 5 years. Those players are getting recycled all the time. Only leaving the top, really top of the top of the cake. They'll still get paid, but a lot of these fighters, a lot of those players going to get minimal contracts and prove-it deals, and that makes the sports better. Because even if we eliminate one star, we can create another star. And we'll create an atmosphere where guys realize they got to fight, they got to get better, or that's going to be their career. They're not going to have the easy road no more. We have to eliminate the easy road, and the only way to do that, we have to crash them out, and we got to start handing out L's to these fighters. But if their promotional company move them in such a way where they're always winning because they're not fighting nobody, their price is just going to keep going higher and higher and higher. You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a product of the corporate interests trying to control what they think excitement is,
You're absolutely right. Yeah, there's these guys have been overpriced, and the price gap, the price cap has been set too high, and these guys are spoiled, and we need something to rein them in. because it's costing us too. It's costing us fights. All right, well, listen, Rich, we got to move on here, but thank you for your call, and call back next time, all right? Take it easy out there.
Okay, I got you. All right. Okay.
Hey, excellent points right there. I mean, yeah, the business of boxing. Look, I've heard people say before, like, hey, Dana White comes in, and he would sort of structure boxing the way he structured the UFC. The fighters would be getting paid less. I've heard some people say that. Some people criticize Dana White for not paying these guys. And look, listen, yeah, maybe sometimes I look at the effort that some of these MMA guys put up, and it does appear like they're underpaid. But there might be a middle ground, because what we got in boxing right now is some guys are being overpaid for the effort that they put up. And listen, you got guys that don't give an effort in boxing, and yet they want to be paid as if they're superstars. I mean, just look at Terence Crawford and Shakur Stevenson wagging their finger at people. You don't understand boxing. You don't know what you're watching. Okay, we don't know what we're watching. Whether you're right or wrong, people aren't going to pay for that. So you should do something about it to get the people's interest back into boxing. Now, they don't want to. They think they're good enough the way they are now, and that they should be compensated millions for it. That's not how it works. Listen, at the end of the day, I want to see good boxing. I got enough things going on in my life without having to worry whether Terence Crawford or Shakur Stevenson are getting paid enough. They're getting paid plenty right now, believe me. Make the big fights happen and try to fight as well as you can. Again, that's why I give Shakur Stevenson credit for the way he fought Hartunian. At least he tried. Now, I don't give him points for results because he couldn't really get much going in terms of action, but it wasn't the worst fight in the world. But he should understand whether people are right or wrong. They're the ones to dictate the market. And right now, the market for him is he's a guy that tried to get the knockout, and even then, he couldn't get much done. Therefore, we're not all that interested in seeing him fight. That's the way a lot of boxing fans are thinking right now. He has to respect that. Just like he's demanding respect for the way he fights. There's a mutual respect that should be taking place. But again, you don't see that respect. Yeah, you see a lot of uncouth boxing fans out there. A lot of foul-mouthed boxing fans who just love to criticize the fighter, and then as soon as that fighter responds to them on Twitter, their dopamine goes through the roof because, hey, this professional fighter responded to me. Let me egg him on again so that I can get him on the bad side. I can light his ire, and then we get something going. Those guys are sick too. But the boxing, the boxers has to start realizing that, okay, there's a lot of people that do give you respect too. There are the people that are watching you fight, the guys that are paying to watch you fight. I didn't have to stay up and watch Shakur Stevenson versus Hartunian, not after the crap show that he gave us against De Los Santos, but I watched it because I'm a hardcore boxing fan. I pay a subscription, TSN subscription, to watch these ESPN fights. If I didn't care about Shakur Stevenson at all, I had no respect for him, I wouldn't pay to watch him fight. I'd be stealing the fights, be watching them on the internet, on other websites. So, again, he can try to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Or maybe he should stay quiet, do his best, realize that there's always going to be people talking smack out there. He should just stick to his own world, do his own thing. That's my advice to a lot of boxers. No matter what you do, there's always going to be somebody that criticizes you. I mean, just look at Inoue. He's about as perfect a fighter as it gets when it comes to performances, meaning he's always entertaining, he always gets a knockout. And even then, people criticize him. Oh, he gets hit a little too much. He got dropped against Pantera Neri. He's not pound for pound because of that. So, look, everybody is going to get criticism from somebody. The job as a boxer is to stay focused on his own career, do what he does, try to please the fans as much as they can to a reasonable extent, and that's that. And boxing fans, well, there are boxing fans that need to get a little bit more educated. But again, talking down at them, wagging the finger at them, being obnoxious towards them, that's only going to piss them off even more. So people have to be reasonable, is what I'm trying to get at. Well, listen, we're close to the 2-hour mark here. We got a late caller coming in. Let's go to the phone lines here. Let's go to 336. 336, you're on the air. 336, what's on your mind?
Little BBA. What's this about Teraji versus Gonzalez? I thought they were both moving up to flyweight. That's the last I heard. When are they fighting and unifying?
I don't know.
They were going to unify last year, but Gonzalez pulled out.
That's the thing. I don't know if I had a Mandela effect moment or whatever. I was convinced that it was going to be Teraji fighting Rodriguez this Saturday.
Yeah. No, I think they're both moving up to flyweight, dude.
Interesting.
It kind of sucks because now 108's in a kind of a shit spot. But it should make flyweight a little bit better. Because a lot of people from flyweight are moving up and shit too. So there's like 3 or 4 guys moving up in that division, I think, as well.
Well, I don't remember
But yeah, that
Kosei
was pretty
I
much
don't,
it. Oh.
I don't remember Kosei Tanaka's last couple of fights. So does he have a shot at beating Rodriguez here, or?
Well, yeah, he should. I mean, he's probably still a top 5 guy. I don't think the guy he's fighting is world level or anything like that. And the fight I am interested in is the Oscalega guy versus the other dude he's fighting, the other Japanese guy.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I think the American will win, but that's the guy Teraji knocked out like last year. But when you look at the guy he's fighting in his resume, I have no idea how he got a title shot. To be honest, it's probably a little bit premature for both of them to get a title shot, but that's boxing sometimes, I guess, right? So whatever. But yeah, I think they're moving up to fight each other at 120. I think what's happening is, Francisco Rodriguez Jr., the guy fought everybody. Chocolatito Estrada, all them guys, right? He's going to end up fighting, I think, Teraji at 112 for the vacant WBC title that Bam Rodriguez vacated when he beat Sonny Edwards. That's what I've heard and seen. That's what Suleiman said. That's what Taraji's going for.
Teraji's going for which title, you said?
The WBC, that flyweight.
Interesting. Now, here's another thing that I've been completely mixed up, man. History of all is letting me know. It's not even the correct Jonathan Rodriguez. It's not Bomba that's fighting this Saturday. It's another dude. What the fuck?
Right, yeah, that's what I was saying. 'Cause I didn't see Bomba getting a fight because he wouldn't have moved up 2 weight classes. I guess it's possible, but I didn't think that's what he was going to do. So I think they're both going to try and fight each other at 112. They're both kind of old, so right, they can't really make 108 anymore. They've been fighting their whole careers, so they're both in their 30s. So it's only natural they move up.
I gotta tell you, I like watching Junto Nakatani fight. I don't think I'm getting off for this one, man, because I think he beats Astrolabio. And
no, it's supposed to be a mismatch. Yeah.
Right.
He'll destroy Astrolabio. But what's good is hopefully they can set up a unification fight with him. And honestly, if Inoue's going to fight, now that we're talking about these Japs, if Inoue's going to fight Doheny and Goodman, that's fine. But I still think he needs to fight, well, he doesn't have to, but I'd like to see him fight MJ and potentially Junto Nakatani in 2025. That would be my ideal roadmap. Then he can go up, because he's not going up to 130 anyways, right? You already said that. So what's the rush in getting up to featherweight when there's still like 2 really high premier fights out there for you?
Yeah, you're right.
MJ and Junto Nakatani.
Yeah, that Inoue fight, the fight that he has to fight this TJ Donaghy guy, it's like, here we go. I mean, at least that bald guy, he's a little bald white guy that he's going to be fighting. That guy brings it. He fights aggressively, so he's probably going to...
Yeah, I think he has decent power. He's never been stopped either, so...
Yeah, he's probably going to... He's going to give it his all.
Oh, go ahead.
He's going to give it his all, is what I'm saying, but I don't think he gets it done.
Right. No, of course not. But if he fights Sam Goodman next, I mean, that's still like 2 top 5 guys in his division in 1 year if he's able to get Goodman in December. But yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see him fight MJ and then Junto Nakatani, and then after that, he can go up to featherweight. I don't know. I think there'd be some unfinished business there and some potential missed opportunities for him.
I mean, we'll see, man.
And
we'll
it's like,
see.
why not let these featherweights unify and shit? I mean, Venado, if he beats, but the guy who lost Stephen Fulton. I can't remember his fucking name.
Which one? Angelo Leo?
Back.
From what?
Yeah, Leo. Okay. There you go. Leo, yep. He ended up, he's like a fucking huge underdog, right? But that'll be like Venato's, 4th or 5th title defense if he beats him.
Right.
Now, why don't some of these guys unify at featherweight and shit? 'Cause it seems like everyone's going to be waiting for, what's his name? Inoue. And Espinoza, there's a good chance he'll beat Inoue too, because he's so much bigger than Inoue is. But we'll see, I don't know.
Yeah.
At least Dick Ball wants to unify and get that rematch with Vargas. But I'd like to see, Venado maybe chase unification. But I don't know if Top Rank wants to put 2 other premier fighters against each other. And also there's a Robeisy Ramirez rematch somewhere around the corner. So there's a lot of shit going on. Featherweight's a pretty good division right now. It's not loaded like with insane talent, but there's like really good fighters that can all probably beat each other, which just makes it pretty good.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to see those guys get it on. And in a way, fight 3-4 more times at 122, and then after that, it's whatever. He can go up to featherweight.
All right, well, listen.
Maybe retire. But
then we'll see what happens, man.
Say a little tiny dude.
All right, take it easy. Thank you for your call, man. Take it easy out there. I'm in shock, man. I am in shock. I thought I got it all. I had it all wrong about this fight. Two of the fighters on that undercard in Japan are not even the same person as I thought they were. So I was completely mixed up. I'm gonna blame it on the Hadron Collider over there at CERN in Switzerland. I think they messed with the timeline. I think they created a Mandela effect just to mess with me and embarrass me. Embarrass me here on the air. It's unacceptable. BDA does not get embarrassed. I embarrass people. I pull their pants down, give them wet willies, wedgies. That's how I embarrass people. I'm a bully. I do not get embarrassed on the air, let me tell you. Well, listen, fellas, we're at the 2-hour mark here. I'm glad everybody called in. I want to give a shout out to everybody that called in, everybody that donated with the super chat, everybody that's here in the chat. I always appreciate you guys jumping in. Hope you guys had a good time, despite my, despite me completely butchering the undercard coming up here for the Junto Nakatani bout on Saturday. But I mean, hey, if you still want to watch Nakatani, that's taking place on Saturday, and I believe, although you shouldn't take anything I say, you shouldn't take anything I say seriously at this point. But let me check the time, the start time, because usually nowadays they start the main event here on the eastern side of the world. Eastern time usually 7 a.m. Eastern time. ESPN Boxing Nakatani start time. It says the Nakatani Astrolabio fight card includes 4 fights and starts at 5 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. Yeah, but it doesn't tell us the main event, because I think most people would just get up simply for the main event. All right, if you want to trust anything I say, and if we go by the way it's being done in the last couple of Japanese cards, then the main event probably starts between 7 to 8 a.m. That's probably the main event. Might as well get up at 5 a.m. if you want to watch all the fights, just to make sure you don't miss anything. That would be my advice. Fellas, don't forget to hit the like. It really helps us out. Like I said, I want to give a big shout out to everybody that was here in the chat. I'm talking about the Impala, #CCD, Rapax Trucking Company, Dark Ado, Super Sardonic, Mars in there, the Quags, Amok, Protectorate General, Rigman Thomas, Baron Evola, King KO, Larry Lopez, Rapax Trucking Company, the Chilean Distributor. Who else we have here? Did I miss any super chats, by the way? Let me just double check here. Don't want to leave anyone hanging. I have to mind my P's and Q's here after all the mistakes I made about the ESPN card. No, didn't miss anything. Oh, no, excuse me. Yeah, shout out to Amok PVP who says, Crawford using fallacies like a feminist. Screw logic. Yeah, I mean, he just made a complete bunch of, boxing fans, all they want to see is people slug it out. No, that's not true. That's not true. Like I said, I was okay with the Shakur Stevenson performance. I wasn't demanding him to drop his hands and give Hartoon a free shot. So again, I don't know what Crawford's talking about. They have to resort to these fallacies to save face. And that's the other thing. Again, these boxers go like, stay in your lane. If you don't know boxing, if you've never boxed before, don't talk about boxing. Okay, well, the way Crawford talks, I don't want to see him ever try to pen a column or do a show, because the guy can't speak English properly. I'm Mexican. I speak English better than he does. He said podcasters. These people be watching podcasters. I was like, what? What the hell's a podcasters? What are podcasters? Do you mean podcasts? I mean, I got to tell you, the nerve, the hubris, the ego, it's overwhelming. All right, fellas, listen, thanks again for watching. Really appreciate it. We'll try to be back. I don't know. Today was more of like a call-in show. None of the usual panelists dropped in, and I placed the calls. They can't come at me and say I didn't invite them. So maybe tomorrow, we're sort of phasing out the open lines for the moment until we try to figure out how to get some order in place. So we're starting to replace those with call-in shows. So I might do another call-in show tomorrow, get you guys' opinion or whatever, or we might do a regular show. I don't know. Try to get some of these regular panelists on board, see what they're saying. Well, listen, fellas, thanks again for watching us. Really appreciate it. Take care. Have yourselves a good evening. I'm out.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
I'm disappointed in everyone. Totally disappointed in everyone.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it no more.
I'm disappointed in everyone.
Then let me tell you why.
It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
You just killed a little fucking man.
What are you going to do about it?
You're happy because you got nothing. You don't got a thing. You're happy because you got nothing. You got nothing.
I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need
BDA Boxing.